Chapter 177. Looking at the graceful and beautiful figure that was like a demon god, they couldn't help but stare. In an instant, many geniuses below the stage couldn't help but be absent-minded. In the sky, heaven and earth were overshadowed, as if all the light had gathered on this peerless beauty. Ji Huang-er, one of the 4 Vermilion Bird Academy's first seats. Under her feet was a sky-burning sparrow. Its body was like a sovereign of fire, and its wings were burning with long red flames. A primitive and savage aura from the ancient era surged. This was an ancient creature born from fire, a spirit of fire. Its bloodline was incomparably ancient, and even the 3 legendary figures couldn't help but focus their attention on this sky-burning sparrow at the first moment. Standing on this ancient and majestic creature, Ji Huang-er seemed to be bathed in red flames, as if she was a peerless demon god walking out of the flames. It's Ji Huang-er, Vermilion Bird Academy's first seat. Ji Huang-er. The first seats of the 4 academies are here. This is going to be a good show. All kinds of discussions came from the crowd. She's stronger than I thought. Looking up and witnessing this scene, Du Pingxia bit her lower lip, and a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes. In Du Pingxia's heart, the 4 first seats had always been her goal, especially as the only female among the 4 first seat. Vermilion Bird Academy's first seat, Ji Huang-er. Originally, she thought that after reaching the Guangling sword, she would be on equal footing with Ji Huang. However, after seeing this first seat, Du Pingxia found that she couldn't even summon the courage to draw her sword. At least above the 11th heavenly layer, Tuoba Yi muttered to himself, and his eyes were overflowing with battle intent. Very strong, very strong. Yuan Daozhen was a man of few words, and his eyes were filled with the sharp brilliance of a peerless divine sword. He was eager to fight, as if he had met his match. Wang Jianxing and Wang Yi looked at each other with indifferent expressions. After a while, Wang Jianxing said slowly, "We're not her match." Their faces were cold and emotionless, as if they were stating a fact. Yu Yao raised her head, and a trace of envy appeared in her watery eyes. Every woman had a dream of being a queen. Who didn't want to be the most beautiful woman in the world? In the dark, Xiao Yuchan raised his head silently. There was a smile on his unusually handsome face, and a faint fire flashed in his eyes. Xiao Yuchan's lips curled. "Very good, you will definitely belong to me, Xiao Yuchan. Only such a woman is fit to be Xiao Yuchan's wife." In midair, Ji Huang-er's eyes flitted across the void like flames before finally landing on a white cloud. He said calmly, "How long are you going to hide? Come out." "Ha ha!" A long laugh rang out in the air. There seemed to be an invisible force twisting in the air. The white cloud suddenly distorted and transformed into a tall and sturdy youth with a valiant appearance. "It's Zhao Xikong, the president of the Tortoise Academy. He actually arrived a long time ago and has been hiding in these clouds all this time. What kind of cultivation method is this? It's so strange." Down below, Wang Jianxing and Wang Yi, the twin brothers known as the Black Tortoise Twin Walls, instantly turned extremely solemn. Many of the Black Tortoise Academy's experts had gloomy expressions. The stronger this Black Tortoise Academy's president was, the slimmer their chances were. Innate illusionary god tactic. Ji Huang-er's beautiful eyes flickered as she nodded. In less than 2 months, you actually cultivated the innate illusionary god tactic to the 11th stage. As expected of the new illusionary god tactic. Innate clan. Illusionary god tactic? What's that? Below the stage, many of the geniuses were baffled by the conversation between the two, but a small portion of them had a change in expression. This person is actually the illusionary god tactic of the Xiantian clan. Wang Jianxing and Wang Yi's eyes revealed a rare shock. The illusionary god tactic of the Xiantian clan actually entered All-Stars College? Could it be that there's really a secret in All-Stars College? Pondering in his heart, Du Pingxia's gaze turned solemn as a strange light flickered in his eyes. Du Pingxiao recalled the speculation of several elders of the Great Yan Empire's imperial family. He's actually the illusionary god tactic. In the crowd, Zhao Zhijing sucked in a breath of cold air. Yu Yao keenly noticed the change in Zhao Zhijing's expression and couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Little Zhi, this illusionary god tactic has a mysterious origin. Why are you all so surprised? Zhao Zhijing looked at Zhao Xikong in the air with reverence in his eyes as he whispered to Yu Yao. Do you know of the hidden families? What hidden families? Yu Yao's body shook violently. How could Yu Yao not know of the hidden families? In the eyes of many experts, hidden families had another name: royal clan, king clan, sovereign clan. Hidden families passed down the bloodline of ancient kings. In the ancient era, those who could become kings were all supreme beings who could sweep through an era. Descendants with invincible king's bloodline were destined to be different from the rest. Yu Yao knew that only the best of the best could become a god tactic. Obviously, this Zhao Xikong was actually from a devil god tactic clan. Moreover, he was a god tactic. In the square, many geniuses' eyes revealed a trace of reverence. The innate illusionary god tactic is indeed a devil god tactic that points directly to the supreme Tao, unparalleled in illusions, changing the heaven and earth with just a thought. I wonder what level your innate godly sword tactic has reached. Ji Huang'er glanced at the tall young man with a trace of brilliance flickering in her eyes. Zhao Xikong's slightly fiery gaze landed on Ji Huang'er and a trace of a smile appeared in his eyes. The innate illusionary god tactic was the Xiantian clan's direct lineage technique, and the innate godly sword tactic was the complementary sword tactic of this tactic. Only direct descendants could cultivate it. What Zhao Xikong was most satisfied with in his life was not his attainments in the innate illusionary god tactic, but this innate godly sword tactic that was brought to the point of perfection. Especially at this time, this question came from the mouth of the goddess in his heart. Just as Zhao Xikong was about to speak, he suddenly saw Ji Huang'er frowning as she looked at the horizon. Zhao Xikong's expression changed, and when he looked up, his expression changed slightly. At this moment, a streak of cold light broke through the sky like a meteor. An invisible and colorless long sword that was purely made of sword chi broke through the clouds and appeared above the clouds. At the same time, a dozen red-tasseled red cranes appeared in the sky, moving side by side like stars. A young man appeared in the sky. This was a white-clothed young man whose eyes were as sharp as a peerless divine sword. His figure was straight, like a peerless divine sword, standing upright in the clouds. A mysterious sword on his back. The most shocking thing was that he was actually stepping on an invisible long sword made of sword chi. Sword flight. These were the four realms of sword Tao. Clang clang clang. With his arrival, countless young geniuses around the square were shocked to find that their own swords were involuntarily humming. Clang clang clang. Countless long swords broke through the air and flew into the sky, automatically circling around this indifferent young man. At the same time, countless spiritual swords on the entire sword mountain were humming, eager to give it a try. Myriad swords greeting the ancestor. This young man had not even stepped onto the sword testing stage, and there were already countless spiritual swords that wanted to recognize him as their master. This scene shocked everyone. Sword. King. Ling. Du. Su. Word by word, Zhao Xikong almost bit out each word. Fourth update noon. Chapter 178. Sword King Ling Dushu. What a tyrannical talent in the sword Tao, to be able to directly trigger the phenomenon of 10,000 swords bowing to the sect. This isn't strange. This person is known as the Sword King, so he naturally has the ability. Sword King Ling Dushu. Legend has it that this person's combat strength is even stronger than White Tiger's first seat, Yang Qing. Unfortunately, when he passed the White Tiger trial, he was defeated by Yang Qing. Now, 3 of the 4 first seats of All Stars College have come, and only the last one, Azure Dragon's first seat, Qin Feng, is left. Clang, clang, clang. Countless sword lights landed on the ground. Ling Dushu's cold eyes swept over the 2 of them, and with a turn of his body, he turned into a bolt of lightning and landed near the sword testing stage. At the same time, streams of oppressive and sharp auras fell from the sky, like swords guarding the King of Swords. Many youths carried long swords on their backs, their sword chi soaring into the sky. Seeing Ling Dushu appear, Zhao Xikong narrowed his eyes slightly and said to Ji Huang, "Looks like Yang Cheng won't be coming." Ji Huang said, "Yang Cheng's weapon is a saber, not a sword." At this moment, in the distant sky, a cold air broke through the air. Ji Huang's pretty face changed slightly. "He's here?" Thinking of this person, Ji Huang's heart burned with an unknown fire. "Qin Feng." Zhao Xikong's eyes narrowed, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. "Miss Ji, are you welcoming me?" Far away, a majestic white bird appeared. On the back of the bird, Qin Feng was dressed in black. His eyes were bright like stars, his figure was ramrod straight, his black hair fluttering in the wind, and his eyes flickered with traces of evil. Ji Huang sneered. "Qin Feng, I thought you had already been killed. A bunch of chickens and pottery dogs." Qin Feng laughed, as if he didn't notice the ridicule in Ji Huang's tone. However, the meaning behind Miss Ji's words, "Are you concerned about Qin Feng?" Qin Feng is really flattered. The feeling of being secretly loved is really good. Qin Feng's face evoked a trace of a sneer. Ji Huang glanced at Qin Feng, and her figure turned into a red shadow and landed around the sword testing stage. Zhao Xikong adored Ji Huang. Hearing Qin Feng's words at this time, he immediately could not resist flaring up. Zhao Xikong's expression was indifferent. After Ji Huang left, Zhao Xikong's gaze fell on the black-robed youth. "Qin Feng, there are some people you can't afford to provoke. I hope you know your limits." Looking at Qin Feng, Zhao Xikong's eyes revealed a trace of coldness and threat. Qin Feng smiled. "Some people can't eat swan meat, so they're jealous of others. Zhao Xikong, you'd better go back and look at your own face in a mirror." Zhao Xikong sneered coldly as a trace of anger flashed across his face. "Qin Feng, I hope you can still be so stubborn in a while." Zhao Xikong stroked his hair that was hanging down. His figure flashed and followed closely behind Ji Huang. His figure landed not far from Ji Huang. "Sissy." Looking at Zhao Xikong's somewhat feminine movements, Qin Feng felt a little nauseous. However, he secretly thought in his heart, "In less than 2 months, Ji Huang and this sissy have broken through to the 11th heavenly layer of martial arts. These 2 people can't be underestimated. They deserve to be top monstrous geniuses. It seems that I have to speed up my cultivation. Once they break through to the meridian's condensation stage first, I'm afraid it's not good for me." Swoosh. At this moment, Qin Feng raised his head. 2 sounds of breaking through the air came. Bai Yun and Yunemo appeared beside Qin Feng. "Let's go down too." Looking at the 2 women who followed closely, Qin Feng nodded. His figure flashed, and the next moment, he appeared beside Lu Chunyang. "Qin Feng! Chief Qin!" Several voices drifted over. Qin Feng raised his head and looked over. At this moment, Du Pingxia's pair of eyes happened to be looking over. There were also Lu Chunyang, Yu Yao, Li Zhuang, and the others. "Brother Du, Brother Lu!" Qin Feng grinned and cupped his hands. At this moment, Qin Feng felt a sword chi locking onto him. An arrogant young man with a long sword on his shoulder walked over and said while sizing up Qin Feng. He had an arrogant look on his face and carried a long sword on his shoulder. It was a spirit sword. "You're the chief of Azure Dragon Academy. You don't look like much? And who are you?" Qin Feng narrowed his eyes, staring at this arrogant young man who was filled with hostility. "I'm Ao Feng. A name you're destined to remember forever. Ao Fong looked at the black-robed young man calmly. Ninth heavenly layer of martial arts, not bad. Ao Fong saw through Qin Feng's cultivation at a glance and nodded. Ninth heavenly layer of martial arts middle stage can indeed stand proudly in some places, but in All Stars Academy, geniuses like you are everywhere. If I were you, I would happily give up the position of Chief of All Stars Academy. I'll give up the position of Chief. Qin Feng looked at Ao Fong in surprise. Ao Fong stood proudly with his hands behind his back. Azure Dragon Academy is one of the 4 great academies. It has a long history and all the previous chiefs have been strong. Although our Azure Dragon Academy has been weak for a long time, if a 9th heavenly layer martial artist is the chief, people will say that our Azure Dragon Academy has no talent. Qin Feng, as the chief, don't you care about the overall situation? What you're doing is disregarding the reputation of Azure Dragon Academy for your own selfish interests. Care about the overall situation? Whose overall situation is this? What a big hat to put on him! Qin Feng sneered. Ao Fong, what nonsense are you talking about? What does this have to do with Azure Dragon Academy's reputation? Behind Qin Feng, Lu Chunyang's face was full of anger. How is it unrelated? A chief of 9th heavenly layer of martial arts middle stage. Don't you think it's embarrassing? A gloomy voice sounded and Qin Tianjiao walked out from not far away. Looking at Qin Feng, his face was full of jealousy and resentment. Qin Tianjiao's gaze swept over the many students of Azure Dragon Academy. Everyone, are you willing to have a chief of 9th heavenly layer of martial arts middle stage? He is Qin Feng, despicable and shameless. He used shameless means to obtain the position of chief of our Azure Dragon Academy, stepping on everyone's heads and flaunting his strength. Such a person should have been kicked out of the academy long ago, but now he has stolen the glory of our Azure Dragon Academy and reaped the benefits without doing a thing. Qin Tianjiao almost roared out in anger. How can such a person occupy the position of chief of Azure Dragon Academy? Many of the Azure Dragon Academy's young experts were in an uproar. Following Qin Tianjiao's words, their gazes fell on Qin Feng. The expression in their eyes changed, and they remained silent. The other 3 academies' young geniuses watched all of this with cold eyes. In any case, the position of chief of Azure Dragon Academy had nothing to do with them. Ji Huanger, Zhao Xikong, Ling Duxiu, Tuoba Yi, and the others also cast their gazes over. Well said. Finally someone stood up and said something fair. At this time, a young man in purple walked out from the crowd. This was a young man in purple, wearing an embroidered robe and a purple gold crown on his head. He was incomparably noble. This was the young prince, Wen Hong, one of the Azure Dragon Academy's young experts. Wen Hong clapped his hands and looked down with a mocking gaze. Qin Feng, you see, so many people don't like you, and no one is willing to support you. What's the use of stealing the position of chief of Azure Dragon Academy? Why don't you just spit it out and avoid being humiliated later? Qin Feng stopped the infuriated Lu Chunyang and waved his hand towards Bai Yun, Yun Mo, Du Pingxia, and the others. In a few steps, he walked in front of Wen Hong, Ao Fong, and the others with an expressionless face. Enough, you've said so much? It's nothing more than wanting my position of chief. It seems like you guys can't even wait for the last month. Looking at Wen Hong, Ao Fong, Qin Feng's gaze gradually became fierce and oppressive. However, the position of Chief of Azure Dragon Academy was conferred by the experts of All Stars Academy. What does it have to do with you motley crew? Whether you guys are happy or not, whether you support or not, is none of my business. As for the big picture, if I like it, I'll take it into consideration. If I don't like it, I won't. What can you guys do to me? This is the 4th update, the 5th update is in my afternoon. Please recommend, please collect, please reward. Chapter 179. What can you do to me? The black-robed youth raised his chin. His eyes were filled with arrogance and ferocity. Ao Fong was the first to bear the brunt. He felt as if he was an unreasonable primordial demon god. The cold and sarcastic smile on the corner of his mouth stimulated his nerves. Ao Fong's face twitched. His face turned from white to green, then from green to red. The seat of honor. Ao Fong, Wen Hong, and Qin Tianjiao couldn't say a word. Ao Fong gritted his teeth. Good Qin Fong. You're really selfish and don't care about the situation of Azure Dragon Institute. Ao Fong, who gave you the guts to call the head of honor by his name? With a cold sneer, Qin Fong suddenly turned around. His body was like a divine dragon from the ninth heaven. The next moment, he appeared in front of Ao Fong and grabbed him with one hand. Ao Fong was shocked. Qin Fong actually dared to attack him. Ao Fong's eyes were filled with joy as he thought to himself. Good Qin Fong, you asked for it. Wait until this prince tramples you under my feet. Let's see if you still have the face to stay on the seat of honor of Azure Dragon Institute. When you get out of the seat of honor, this prince swears that I'll deal with you properly, you bastard. Secretly happy, Ao Fong's body erupted with a ferocious aura like that of a dragon. His eyes flashed with malevolence. He crossed his hands in front of him and stomped his feet. 3 dragon roars that seemed to come from ancient times erupted. 3 dragon-shaped auras flew out from his body, as if they could shatter the entire mountain. Roar. The 3 dragon-shaped auras intertwined around his body like real dragons protecting him. This was Zhu Zigua's secret art, the low-level true martial realm 9 dragons fighting demon art. At the highest level, one punch could blast out 99 dragon-shaped auras that could shatter mountains and split rivers. It's useless. You dare to jump out and go against me? You're courting death. Qin Fong grinned. He clawed his hand and activated the innate ocean control at close range. Ao Fong's eyes flashed with a trace of fear. Pucci, suddenly, violent blood qi spurted out from his pores. The aura around his body showed a flaw and the 3 dragon-shaped auras collapsed. Ao Fong tried his best to circulate the Xiantian qi of the 10th level of martial path to suppress the violent blood and qi in his body. Suddenly, a sense of death appeared in his heart. Ao Fong raised his head, and an iron claw appeared before him at lightning speed. Panic flashed in his eyes as he wanted to throw out a palm strike. But it was too late. Qin Feng's big hand tore apart Ao Fong's energy, and instantly appeared on Ao Fong's neck. His 5 fingers were like an iron fist, and he lifted Ao Fong up. With his feet in the air, Ao Fong struggled with all his might. However, the pair of arms that gripped his neck were even harder and colder than steel. Ao Fong's face was red, and he almost couldn't breathe. With his feet in the air, a flame of humiliation flashed across Ao Fong's eyes. Qin Fong. Bah. A slap flashed over, making Ao Fong dizzy. A palm print quickly appeared on Ao Fong's left cheek. His left cheek quickly swelled up like a steamed bun. Louder, I didn't hear what you said. Qin Fong turned his neck and tilted his head. Gotcha. His neck twisted slightly, and the sound of bones rubbing against each other could be heard. Ao Fong almost fainted. Someone as proud as him was caught in such a humiliating way. Humiliating him in front of so many people. This was worse than killing him. Everyone's attention. The entire square shook as numerous shocked gazes landed on Qin Fong and Ao Fong's bodies. Ao Fong had a great reputation in All Stars College. A sword genius of the 10th heavenly layer of the martial path. Especially when he obtained an elementary spirit sword under everyone's eyes. This was a small moment at the peak of Ao Fong's life. Many people remembered him, thinking that he would be the next head of the Azure Dragon Institute. Many genius girls cast flirtatious glances at him, secretly admiring him. Ao Fong and Qin Fong had a dispute, and many geniuses stood on his side, thinking that he would be able to suppress the Azure Dragon Institute's head seat's limelight. Becoming the new head seat. But now, the 10th heavenly layer Ao Fong was actually captured by the 9th heavenly layer middle stage Qin Feng in one move. Caught and ruthlessly slapped his face in front of everyone. His dignity was trampled underfoot. Qin Feng's strength exceeded everyone's expectations. His counterattack was like a whirlwind, so fast that some people with bad intentions seemed to have been slapped in the face, directly stupefied. Call the head seat. A hand like an iron wrist gripped Ao Feng's neck. Qin Feng picked his ear, his gaze cold like a sword emitting a sharp light. This was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Although Qin Feng was ruthless, he never liked to take the initiative to provoke trouble. He cultivated wholeheartedly and did not like to curry favor. But these people thought that he was easy to bully, a soft persimmon that could be kneaded at will, stepped on and ridden at will. A large slap to the face made Ao Feng see stars. Qin Feng, you lowly little bastard, kill me if you have the guts. If you don't kill me, I'll definitely kill you in the future. Ao Feng's eyes were crimson red, his gaze venomous as he roared madly. Slap, slap, slap. Several slaps in a row hit Ao Feng until he could not distinguish north from south. Provoking the head seat, speaking rudely, disrespecting your elders, this is a heinous crime. You deserve to die 10,000 times. Qin Feng laughed sinisterly and lifted one of Ao Feng's legs with one hand. Bang! Ao Feng landed on the ground at a 180-degree angle, causing the ground to shake. Poochie! Ao Feng spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. Violent. Bloody. Savage. With this smash, more than half of Ao Feng's bones were broken. The whole place was shocked and silent. Many gazes fell on the black-robed young man. This Azure Dragon's head seat's methods were not ordinary savage. Brutal. When Hong's face was pale and unknowingly, his body slipped into the crowd. Qin Tianjiao was so frightened that her legs were numb. Looking at the black-robed young man who was like an ancient fierce god, she had already collapsed to the ground. What a surprising result! Tuoba Yi shrugged. His eyes narrowed slightly like a sleeping lion. What's surprising? Is it his savagery? Or his strength? A gentle female voice sounded. This beautiful pink-clothed girl, her every move exuded an amorous feeling. A woman's charm. It made people unconsciously have some thoughts that they should not have. The girl in pink sized up the black-robed young man with her beautiful eyes. Looking at the girl in pink, Tuoba Ye's sharp eyes revealed a rare trace of fluctuation. He said the second sentence. Both. It's not surprising at all. How can someone who can become a head seat be an ordinary person? However, he was actually able to capture Ao Feng, who was at the 10th firmament of the martial path, in one move. This is somewhat unexpected. Yuan Daozhen's eyes glowed. Ji Huang'er sneered. He cultivated a special martial path foundation establishment cultivation method, and his aura is very grand. The quality of his Xiantian true qi is not inferior to the true qi of a meridian's condensing realm expert. It is because of this special true qi that he was able to break through Ao Feng's protective qi and easily suppress him. However, he is indeed very strong. Another one is crippled. I don't know where this unlucky guy came from, but he was instigated to be the monkey that Qin Feng used to establish his might. In the dark, Xiao Yuchan looked at this and curled his lips, thinking in his heart. The arrogance of a young man, easily unconvinced by others? I don't know which expert did this. It's a pity that he doesn't know Qin Feng well enough. Qin Feng is the most shameless and treacherous person. This person usually likes to pretend that his cultivation is low and lure people to jump out and die. This is his usual trick. Xiao Yuchan had a deep grudge against Qin Feng, and his eyes flickered with a gloating expression. Xiao Yuchan's gaze landed on Ao Feng, who was vomiting blood on the ground. He shook his head repeatedly. There's one more update tonight. Same old rules. Chapter 180. In the dark, the three legendary figures of All Stars College looked at Ao Fong, who couldn't get up for a long time. One of them frowned and said, "Isn't this little guy a little too ruthless? Should we stop him?" Another legendary figure shook his head and said, "This is the rule set by the dean. As long as no one dies and no underhanded means are used to damage the Foundation, it's fine." The legendary figure who spoke first said with some dissatisfaction, "But is this really okay?" The last legendary figure with a red face sneered, "What's wrong with it? Our All Stars College is a place where experts come forth in large numbers. We nurture experts. These youngsters are like little wolves. Little wolves always grow up fighting with their companions, tempering their claws and teeth. I believe that the family that sent them here also doesn't want them to become so-called experts who only know how to talk." The legendary figure who spoke first nodded and said, "That's right. The path of a martial artist is full of bumps and thorns. This is just a small scene. As long as that little guy doesn't use underhanded means to damage the foundation of that little thing on the ground or kill him, we don't need to intervene." The first legendary figure shook his head. "The disciples nurtured like this are all wolves, tigers, and leopards." The red-faced legendary figure sneered. "This old man would rather nurture some wolves, tigers, and leopards that eat people without spitting out the bones, than sheep that are eaten by wolves, tigers, and leopards." Qin Feng lifted his foot and walked to Ao Fong. He lowered his head and looked at Ao Fong, who was in severe pain and twitching violently. "Call me the head. Don't even think about it. You lowly bastard who used underhanded means to steal the head position. I will never yield to you." Ao Fong spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hatred was like a flame. "Really stubborn." Qin Feng shook his head and lifted his foot to step on Ao Fong's face. He exerted force and stomped Ao Fong into the mud. Qin Feng's eyes flickered. If it wasn't for the rules of All Stars College, Qin Feng would have already crushed Ao Fong's head with his foot. Seeing that Ao Fong was still stubborn, Qin Feng sighed and lowered his head to speak to Ao Fong. "Ao Fong, you keep saying that I use despicable means? Which eye of yours saw me usurping the first seat position? Are you really that stupid or just pretending to be stupid?" Qin Feng sighed. This person was a prince from the imperial palace. It was a miracle that such a self-righteous and eccentric prince could survive until now. Qin Feng had actually wronged Ao Fong. Ao Fong had shown extraordinary martial arts talent since he was young. He had been spoiled by the few old monsters in the royal family of Zhuzi country since he was young. Thus, he developed an arrogant, condescending, and opinionated personality. Coming to All Stars College was the prince's first time traveling. How is it not stealing? You are clearly only at the middle stage of the 9th heavenly layer. If you didn't use despicable means, how could you? So what if I'm in the middle stage of the 9th heavenly layer? I'm at the middle stage of the 9th heavenly layer, but I still beat you, a so-called expert at the 10th heavenly layer, to the point that you're looking for your teeth all over the floor." Lowering his head, Qin Feng loosened his foot that was stepping on Ao Fong's face. "Can one's martial arts realm absolutely represent one's strength? I think you are not pretending to be stupid. You are really stupid. You are simply hopeless." Ao Fong raised his head and roared. "Qin Feng, you dare to humiliate this prince. This prince will never submit to you in this life. The humiliation you gave me today, I will definitely return it to you tenfold or 100-fold in the future. You are still stubborn even now." Qin Feng raised his head and asked Du Pingxia, "Are all the royal family disciples so stupid?" Du Pingxia rolled his eyes and glanced at Ao Fong with a bitter smile. "He is just an exception. If we were all like him, the empire would have been overthrown long ago. See? I am not the only one saying that you are stupid. You know that if this was not All Stars College, your head would have been completely crushed after you said those words." Qin Feng's eyes were filled with pity. How pitiful. You are so tall and strong, but you are actually being used as a tool by others. No wonder others like you. Being stupid is good. Poochie. Ao Feng's face swelled to the color of pig liver. He pointed at Qin Feng but could not say anything. After a while, he suddenly screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was so angry that he fainted. The surrounding gazes were cold and elegant. Ao Feng must have been tormented like this. If he could not overcome this, he would be completely crippled. Qin Feng moved his foot away. Young Master Ao. Yu Hong finally broke free from Yu Yao's obstruction and hurriedly went forward to check on Ao Feng's injuries. Looking at Ao Feng, who was covered in injuries, Yu Hong's face was red. She angrily roared at the black-robed man. Qin Feng, how can you treat young Master Ao like this? After all, he's our senior and junior brother. Aren't you being too vicious by doing this? Cousin! Yu Yao's face changed and quickly pulled Yu Hong. Seventh sister, don't bother. Although Qin Feng is the head of the Azure Dragon College and has great power, I am just a little girl. But I am not afraid. I, Yu Hong, will seek justice for young Master Ao even if I have to give up my life. Justice? Qin Feng looked at the angry Yu Hong and sneered. Yu Hong, in your eyes, is it fair for your lover, Ao Feng, to trample me beneath his feet and seize the position of Azure Dragon's first seat? You're spouting nonsense. Yu Hong shouted. Young Master Ao is kind and honest. He would never be as cruel as you. I am cruel? He is kind? Qin Feng was so angry that he laughed. This woman really knew how to distort the truth. Qin Feng was really disgusted. He originally saw that this woman was from the same hometown as him and did not want to bicker with her. But this woman did not know what was good for her and kept on pestering him. Qin Feng felt a trace of anger. With a cold gaze, Qin Feng sneered and questioned. Let me ask you, how do you know that Ao Feng is kind and honest? You know him very well. Is your relationship with him special? Yu Hong's expression changed slightly. She was a lady from a noble family and was as pure as ice. If she said that she had any relationship with Ao Feng at this time, then her reputation would be ruined. Qin Feng asked again. As far as I know, you are the daughter of the Mountain River City's Yu clan. You are a lady from a noble family. Ao Feng is the prince of Zhuzi country. You two are not related at all. Qin Feng stared at her intently. You know him so well. Unless you are a natural slut and have slept with him before, why would you know a man you don't even know? Yu Hong's face turned pale and she could not say anything. The moment Qin Feng's words left his mouth, Yu Hong felt countless gazes of suspicion landing on her. Their gazes were filled with a colored light, causing fear to well up in her heart. This matter was related to a lady's reputation. Once the slut's reputation was spread, her life would be ruined. Yu Hong was so anxious that she was about to cry. She did not know how to explain it. Head, my elder sister has been agitated while practicing martial arts. That's why she's spouting nonsense. How can we have any relationship with this person? Even if we do, we are enemies. Yu Yao walked up and pulled Yu Hong behind her. Yu Yao gave a signal with her eyes and two cold-faced young girls came forward and knocked Yu Hong unconscious with a karate chop and took her away. Yu Yao said sincerely, Chief is the friend of our princess, so naturally, he is our benefactor. How can we be enemies with him? Qin Feng glanced at Yu Yao and snorted coldly. He did not pursue the matter further. Yu Yao heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly ordered people to carry Yu Hong away. Qin Feng looked around and found that Wen Hong and Qin Tianjiao were left behind. He snorted coldly in his heart. His gaze fell back on the sword testing stage. At this moment, the sky changed color and a series of phenomena appeared. Someone was already standing on the sword testing stage. This person was none other than the Black Tortoise's chief, Zhao Xikong. It's still 5 updates. This is the first one, the second one is 8 in the morning, and the third one is around 11 in the morning. This is the old rule, and also the rule in the future. Every day there will be 5 updates, and there will be regular updates. I'm working so hard. Please recommend me, collect me, reward me. Chapter 181. Rumble. A thick sword light shot into the sky, causing the weather to change. Then, dark clouds rolled and thunder exploded. Strands of sword chi condensed into a rain of light. The first phenomenon was sword chi soaring into the sky. The second phenomenon was wind and clouds surging. The third phenomenon was thunderous. The fourth phenomenon was sword rain. Immediately after, an unprecedented fifth phenomenon appeared in the void. Pure white sword lotuses appeared in midair, like holy white lotuses floating in the air. However, Qin Feng and the others could tell at a glance that these holy white lotuses were condensed from strands of invisible sword qi. The fifth phenomenon was void sword lotus. These are pure white lotuses. They seem different from ordinary sword qi lotuses? Lu Chunyang muttered to himself. Qin Feng pondered slightly as he comprehended the strands of profound concepts within the pure white lotus flower, and he spoke. These are illusionary god sword lotuses. These lotuses are formed from strands of sword qi with the illusionary god intent. Du Pingxia glanced at Qin Feng and Lu Chunyang, then looked up at the phenomenon in the sky and continued Qin Feng's words. The fifth phenomenon is void sword lotus. The void sword lotus phenomenon triggered by every sword Dao expert is different. This chief Zhao obviously cultivates the illusionary god sword intent, so these sword qi lotuses all carry a strand of ethereal illusionary god sword qi. Du Pingxia glanced at Qin Feng and smiled. This chief Zhao is a smart person. He knows that his sword Dao might not be the strongest in your group, so he stepped onto the sword testing stage first. No matter how he performs, he will be invincible and won't be negatively affected. The fifth phenomenon is Zhao Xikong's limit. This lady is very knowledgeable. Qin Feng was about to speak when a voice came from behind. The two turned around and saw Bai Yun and Yun Mo walking up. Just now, Qin Feng suppressed Ao Feng, and the two ladies were just holding the line. Bai Yun walked to Qin Feng's side and separated Qin Feng and Du Pingxia. Du Pingxia frowned. She instinctively felt a trace of threat from these two girls, who were not inferior to her in appearance. However, she didn't show any abnormality. Instead, she looked at Qin Feng. Bai Yun looked at Du Pingxia and said with a strange look, "Junior brother, may I know who this lady is? Can you introduce her to me?" Qin Feng's eyes fell on the three ladies. A certain someone with a low EQ didn't notice the subtle aura between the three ladies. Or rather, he noticed it but didn't care. This is Princess Du Pingxia of the Great Yen Kingdom. She is my ally and a good friend. White Cloud's sudden intervention made Du Pingxia somewhat dissatisfied, but Qin Feng's last words made Du Pingxia smile. Good friend, female friend? Bai Yun's eyes showed a trace of vigilance. These two are senior sister Bai Yun in white and senior sister Yun Mo in black. These two have helped me a lot. They are also my good teachers and helpful friends. Good teachers and helpful friends? Don't tell me they're in bed? Du Pingxia was unhappy. These two foxes are so beautiful. Since they came here, their eyes have been on Qin Feng. I'm afraid these two foxes have bad intentions towards Qin Feng. A string in Du Pingxia's heart suddenly tightened. She didn't know why, but the girl who had been acting like a wise and confident girl suddenly became nervous and flustered. She didn't even notice when Zhao Xikong walked down the stage. Du Pingxia didn't understand what kind of feeling it was. But instinctively, Du Pingxia didn't like Bai Yun and Yun Mo, so it's the two sisters. I'm sorry. Du Pingxia was a little absent-minded. Your Highness is too polite. Bai Yun's beautiful face smiled as she looked at Du Pingxia. Bai Yun thought in her heart. This whatever princess's eyes are filled with peach blossoms. With one look, I can tell that her heart is rippling. I'm afraid that she has a good impression of junior brother Qin Feng. This won't do. I've searched for several years before finally finding such a reliable person like junior brother Qin Feng. I can't let this whatever princess take advantage of me. There's a saying that the one who strikes first gains the advantage. No matter if this princess has bad intentions towards junior brother, I have to cut off all possibilities. Bai Yun's beautiful eyes turned and she suddenly said in a sweet voice, "Junior brother Qin Feng, I didn't know you had fruits on you. Senior sister is suddenly hungry." Qin Feng glanced at Bai Yun. His gaze landed on the white-clothed beauty as he asked doubtfully, "Senior sister, didn't we just eat spirit fruits this morning?" Qin Feng didn't understand. Senior sister Bai Yun was a martial artist in the pulse condensation period. Although she hadn't reached the stage where she didn't eat, drink, or sleep, it shouldn't be a problem for her to survive for 10 days. How could she suddenly be hungry? Bai Yun blinked her beautiful and pure eyes and said, "When I was flying, I consumed too much of my true force." Qin Feng nodded. This made sense. As everyone knew, when martial artists consumed too much of their true force, they would refine the essence in their body to replenish it. It was easy to feel hungry. "I still have a few spirit apricots and spirit peaches. Senior sister, you can eat them first." Qin Feng took out a few spirit fruits and handed them to Bai Yun. Bai Yun took the spirit fruits and said in a sweet voice, "Junior brother is so considerate." Looking at this scene, Du Pingxia's expression dimmed and he suddenly said, "Junior brother Qin Feng, I suddenly remembered that there are some things I need to deal with on the Spirit Mountain. I won't accompany you. I'll be leaving first." "Brother Du?" Qin Feng was baffled. This beautiful princess was talking and laughing just now. Why did she suddenly turn hostile? "Brother Du, what's the matter?" Qin Feng looked at Bai Yun and Yunemo with a questioning gaze. "Well, junior sister Du might really have something to deal with." Bai Yun chuckled and stared at the leaving figure with the young girl. Her beautiful eyes squinted as if she was a little vixen who stole a chicken. "Little vixen, you want to compete with me for the man of my dreams? You're too inexperienced." The young girl was proud. Her smile was like a flower, exceptionally sweet, and her laughter was as pleasant as silver bells. Around them, many people's gazes were attracted. They didn't even care about the strange scene on the stage, and looked at the young girl with a burning gaze. Behind White Cloud, Yunemo leaned against White Cloud and whispered, "Senior sister, you're so awesome. I've learned another move." Bai Yun only felt a little itchy behind her ear. Her face flushed red and she rolled her eyes at Yunemo. "Don't be naughty. Junior brother is watching." "What are you looking at?" Qin Feng's ears were unusually sensitive. His gaze fell on the two girls who were being intimate. These two girls couldn't be in a relationship, right? Qin Feng felt strange in his heart. Two girls, and such beautiful girls rubbing against each other, it must be very exciting. However, he didn't expect the pure and holy senior sister Bai Yun and senior sister Yunemo to have that kind of relationship. This was too exciting, too erotic. Qin Feng, who was thinking the wrong way, looked up on the surface, but his heart was flying. His imagination was running wild. After Zhao Xikong successfully obtained a mid-grade spirit sword, Tuo Baiyi, Wan Jianyi, Wan Jianxing, Xiao Yuchan, and the others walked up the stage one after another. Yu Yao's eyes were very sharp. Most of these people were able to trigger a 5th-level phenomenon. Tuo Baiyi even triggered a 6th-level phenomenon. What he obtained were all rare mid-grade spirit swords. These people were truly dragons among men. Gifted geniuses. The surrounding young geniuses' eyes dimmed. They were filled with envy, jealousy, reverence, and unwillingness. Not long later, a red light flickered. In the next moment, Ji Huang Er's figure appeared on the stage. The third update is at around 11 a.m. The fourth update is at noon. The fifth update is in the afternoon. Chapter 182. A crimson sword light circulated around Ji Huang-er's body, as if she was a queen who had walked down from the Jade Pavilion. Her red dress was like a ball of flame that fell on everyone's heart. She was gorgeous. Many young geniuses in the square couldn't help but be absent-minded. Tuoba Yi, Wan Jianxing, Wan Gi, and even a few top geniuses hidden in the dark had fiery eyes when they raised their heads. They believed that from today onwards, many people would remember this moment forever, and remember this beautiful girl who was as proud as a phoenix. Ji Huang-er's eyes fell on the black sword that was as tall as a mountain. Her body shook, and a thick crimson sword light erupted. Rumble! A crimson sword chi pierced through the sky, causing heaven and earth to change color, and strange phenomena appeared frequently. The first strange phenomenon was sword chi soaring into the sky, the second strange phenomenon was wind and clouds changing color, the third strange phenomenon was thunder, and the fourth strange phenomenon was rain condensing. The fifth strange phenomenon was void sword lotus. In the blink of an eye, 5 strange phenomena appeared in succession. Light red sword lotuses rotated in the void like flame-like petals, and wisps of blazing sword essence were contained in them, as if burning through the void. Looking at this scene, Qin Feng thought in his heart. Very strong, Ji Huang-er's sword cultivation is definitely not weaker than mine. At least she has reached the third realm of sword cultivation, invisible heaven way. Sword essence of fire attribute. Perhaps this sword essence should be called Nanmingli fire sword essence. Behind Bai Yun, Yun Mo's beautiful eyes slightly revealed a trace of surprise. Nanmingli fire sword essence? Hearing this, Qin Feng's eyes moved slightly. According to legend, the innate true spirit phoenix of 5 virtues burned with Nanmingli fire. Not far away, Lu Chunyang smiled. This is not surprising. Ji Huang-er cultivates a peerless sword technique called 9 Heaven Phoenix Sword Technique. 9 Heaven Phoenix Sword Technique? Brother Lu, how do you know? You seem to know Ji Huang-er very well? Qin Feng turned his head and looked at the red-robed youth with interest. Lu Chunyang sneered and rolled his eyes. My master Qin, this is news that everyone knows. I'm afraid only you, a cultivation maniac who cultivates in the cave all day long, don't know. Everyone knows. Qin Feng was greatly surprised. Yes. Zhao Zijing interrupted. Ever since the first day Ji Huang-er came to All Stars College, she became the focus of everyone's attention. No matter if it was her background, cultivation, what kind of cultivation method she cultivated, or even what kind of undergarment she was wearing today, she was the topic of everyone's attention. Qin Feng was taken aback. Is she that popular? More than that, Senior Sister Ji is the goddess of all the boys in our All-Stars College. Speaking of Ji Huang-er, Zhao Zijing's eyes were shining. Looking at Zhao Zijing's drunken appearance, Qin Feng clicked his tongue. He turned around and looked around. Most of the people present were like Zhao Zijing. His unblinking eyes fell on Ji Huang-er. This Sundra girl actually has so many suitors? Qin Feng pursed his lips in disbelief. Rumble. At this moment, the 5th phenomenon in the void gradually disappeared. A 6th-level phenomenon had actually been born. Great white sunset. Above the sky, a fiery red light passed through the sky like a red sun flying across the horizon. It was incomparably shocking. However, it wasn't over yet. Clang, clang, clang. Above the sword mountains, countless longswords hummed and jumped. On the field, many people were shocked to find that their own swords were uncontrollably humming. 7th-level phenomenon, myriad swords greeting ancestor. Ji Huang-er's attainments in the realm were beyond imagination. She actually triggered a 7th-level phenomenon like never before. Many sword Dao geniuses looked at the Vermilion Bird Academy's first seat in disbelief. Her sword Dao realm is actually so tyrannical. In the Vermilion Bird Academy, some hidden geniuses aiming for the first seat secretly complained. Qin Feng turned around and looked at the trembling ancient sword in his hand. This ancient sword was almost flying out of its scabbard. Qin Feng's gaze turned and fell on Yunmo. At this time, Yunmo's gaze also looked over. Following Qin Feng's gaze, her gaze fell on the sword in her hand. The strange thing was that this sword actually didn't hum in the slightest. As if it didn't feel the heaven-suppressing sword intent on Ji Huang. Spirit sword? Qin Feng frowned. Qin Feng knew that the myriad swords greeting ancestor phenomenon could subdue ordinary sword. Even the ancient sword in Qin Feng's hand would be restrained, but it couldn't shake a true spirit sword. Yunmo's sword was actually a spirit sword too. Swish, swish, swish. On the field, following the end of the phenomenon, hundreds of flowing lights flew over from the sword mountains in the sky at the same time. Swift and fierce sword energy shattered the void. These were hundreds of spirit swords. This scene was exceptionally shocking. Among them, the brightest were the 3 spirit swords in the lead. These 3 spirit swords emitted an extremely strong pressure, as if they were the kings of swords. Buzz buzz. Following the 3 spirit swords humming, the remaining spirit swords actually dodged several hundred feet away, not daring to approach the 3 spirit swords. Several mid-grade spirit swords intended to approach. Buzz buzz. A crimson-red light slashed. Several mid-grade spirit swords let out a mournful cry. The sword light scattered and flew out several hundred feet in a whirl. They were actually cut down by a sword. High-grade spirit sword. What a domineering high-grade spirit sword. Many sword Dao powerhouses were moved. Their eyes turned red. They were actually high-grade spirit swords, and there were 3 of them. These 3 spirit swords were 1 green and 2 red. For the first time, a line of text appeared on the black sword in the middle. It actually appeared the names and origins of these 3 spirit swords. Ji Huang Er's gaze fell on the green spirit sword, and a line of text appeared on the black sword. Qing Huang sword, a high-grade wood attribute spiritual sword. This sword is made from a 10,000-year-old wood soul as its foundation. It has been immersed in the cold water of the abyss. It was forged by pure yang for 49 years, and was tempered by heavenly lightning. 530 years ago, it was the sword of the Myriad Star Academy's Elder Qing Huang. Elder Qing Huang had once used this spiritual sword to kill the half-step rebirth realm Qing Yang Devil Monarch. Martial Dao realms started from the 9 heavens of the Martial Dao. Above it was the Meridian Condensing Realm, Sea of Reincarnation Realm, Nirvana Realm, and Rebirth Realm. Half-step Rebirth Realm, this was already the quasi-supreme realm. Ji Huang was quite tempted. She had a fire attribute physique, and wood and fire complemented each other. Ji Huang's gaze fell on the first spirit sword that emitted white flames and was completely white. White Sun Sword, a high-grade spirit sword of fire attribute. The body of this sword was forged from white sun stone that was nurtured in 10,000 years old earth fire for 10,000 years. The sword is 1 meter long and innately contains the geocentric white sun flame. 1,400 years ago, All Stars College's elder Bai Yangzi used this sword to repel the encirclement of 6 powerhouses of the same level. Ji Huang's eyes moved. Without a doubt, compared to the first wood attribute spirit sword, this fire attribute spirit sword was more to her liking. Ji Huang's gaze fell on the last spirit sword that was burning with flames as if it was born from fire. Just now, it was this domineering spirit sword that repelled those restless mid-grade spirit swords. With just a glance, Ji Huang determined that it was this sword. Crimson Phoenix Sword, a high-grade spirit sword of fire attribute. This sword was forged from the Crimson Phoenix's soul after the failure of the Crimson Phoenix's nirvana. The sword is 1 meter long and innately contains a trace of the Crimson Phoenix's nirvana flame. 700 years ago, it was the sword of the Fire Peak Master of Xingqian School. Crimson Phoenix Sword, it's yours. Ji Huang's eyes lit up. She reached out and the crimson phoenix sword let out an extremely joyful buzzing sound. The other two high-grade spirit swords let out a clear sword cry of unwillingness and turned into two spirit lights, flying back to the sword mountain. The crimson phoenix sword flashed with red light, like a flying crimson phoenix divine bird, turning into a red light that covered Ji Huang. Spirit sword feedback, sword qi infusion. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a trace of passion. Spirit sword feedback. This was a phenomenon after a high-grade spirit sword recognized its master. Ji Huang Er's aura soared and climbed steadily. In a few breaths, her realm broke through from the middle stage of the 11th heavenly layer to the late stage of the 11th heavenly layer, and then she broke through to the early stage of the 12th heavenly layer. Third update, fourth update at noon. Chapter 183. Clearly, the Crimson Phoenix sword was one of the best among high-grade spiritual swords, and its potential was extremely outstanding. The spiritual energy in the sky poured into Ji Huang Er's body. This was the pure spiritual energy condensed by the high-grade spiritual sword that had been hiding in the land of Hiding Dragon for thousands of years. The spiritual sword recognized its master, and the sword energy returned. Ji Huang Er's cultivation rose sharply. After a few breaths, Ji Huang Er broke through the 3rd level of the martial path and reached the 12th level of the martial path. This spiritual sword's return almost saved Ji Huang her year's worth of cultivation effort. This was unimaginable. The entire audience was shocked. A high-grade spiritual sword was more helpful to its master than expected. With this Crimson Phoenix sword, it was certain that there was no suspense in the Vermilion Bird Institute's assessment. No one would be able to shake Ji Huang Er's seat of honor. Compared to the joyful Ji Huang Er, the Vermilion Bird Institute's geniuses were gloomy with a trace of helplessness. Ji Huang Er opened her eyes and walked down the sword testing stage with the Crimson Phoenix sword in her hand. Her footsteps paused slightly, and her eyes swept across the audience. When her eyes swept over the black-robed youth, Qin Feng sensed that the former's gaze paused for half a breath on by Yun and Yunemo. Then, the corners of her mouth curled slightly and she walked straight past him. Pervert! Although Qin Feng didn't know how to lip-read, he could still read these two words. I'm a pervert? Qin Feng's eyes twitched. Following Ji Huang Er on the sword testing stage was Yuan Daozhen. Yuan Daozhen cultivated the Holy Sword Soul Refining Secret Art. This technique was extremely terrifying and difficult to cultivate. Every time a martial artist who cultivated the Holy Sword Soul Refining Secret Art reached a higher level, the sword energy in their body would become sharper, and the pain would become more intense. Since ancient times, very few people had successfully cultivated this technique. Most of the martial artists who had outstanding willpower would go crazy because they couldn't hold on any longer. Yuan Daozhen didn't reveal his strength, but Qin Feng knew that this youth was extremely terrifying. A wave of pure sword energy erupted. Yuan Daozhen's sword intent was very pure. It was so pure that it was as if he wasn't a human, a living being, but a sharp holy sword. 7 phenomena occurred in a row. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. On the Sword Mountain, nearly 200 sword shadows flew over and surrounded Yuan Daozhen. Obviously, Yuan Daozhen's attainments in the Sword Dao were even more terrifying than Ji Huang's. Among the nearly 200 sword shadows, there was only one high-rank spiritual sword. This high-rank spiritual sword was emitting an invisible sword light, which pushed away all the other spiritual swords and arrived in front of Yuan Daozhen. This was a strange spiritual sword, and it looked like a stone sword condensed from stone. This stone sword had no name. Yuan Daozhen's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and grabbed the sword. Yuan Daozhen closed his eyes, and after a few breaths of time, a powerful aura erupted from his body. Yuan Daozhen's cultivation base at the peak of the 9th firmament of the martial path broke through the 10th firmament of the martial path, pushing him to the middle stage of the martial path. A formidable opponent. Looking at this scene, Qin Feng revealed a trace of a bitter smile. Yuan Daozhen was someone from the Azure Dragon Institute. Qin Feng's sensitive sixth sense sensed that this was only Yuan Daozhen's superficial breakthrough. After obtaining the stone sword, some of Yuan Daozhen's subtle changes had occurred. It was not an exaggeration to call these changes a rebirth. In short, Yuan Daozhen would most likely become Qin Feng's most powerful competitor for the position of the chief. At this moment, Qin Feng did not need to look around to know that there were countless pairs of eyes on him. Many people were gloating over his misfortune. Gloomy gazes landed on Qin Feng, gloomy and complacent. At this moment, there was one person who was extremely excited. In the dark, a purple-robed young man looked at the black-robed young man coldly and thought to himself, "Qin Feng, although I can't take away your position as the chief, there is someone who can suppress you now. Once you get out of the chief seat, I will have many ways to deal with you." A sinister smile appeared on his face. At this moment, a few people in the dark revealed sinister smiles. Yuan Daozhen held the stone sword and walked down from the stage with an indifferent expression. When Yuan Daozhen walked down from the stage, Ling Dushu's figure flashed and appeared on the sword testing stage. Everyone's gazes fell on the White Tiger Institute's Sword King. Yuan Daozhen was powerful, but compared to Ling Dushu, who was known as the Sword King, he was still slightly inferior. Ling Dushu's performance did not disappoint. An extremely domineering sword aura soared into the sky. 7 phenomena appeared in a row, and the 8th phenomenon appeared. The sword god turned around. Boundless sword aura intertwined, and a divine figure appeared in the void. It seemed to have existed for eternity. This divine figure seemed to have turned around from the river of time, and with a single glance, it deduced the profoundness of the sword Tao. As the 8th phenomenon appeared, it seemed to have reached its limit. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and countless sword auras erupted from the sword mountains. The 9th phenomenon rumbled for a moment, but it did not descend. As the phenomenon ended, hundreds of sword auras swept over from the sword mountains like a torrent of sword auras. Among them, there were as many as 7 high-grade spiritual swords. Many geniuses were speechless. Looking at this scene, Qin Feng smiled silently. Compared to him, the head of the White Tiger Institute had a bigger headache at this time. After a quarter of an hour, Ling Dushu chose a divine spiritual sword and walked down from the sword testing stage. At this time, Ling Dushu's aura was grand to the extreme. It was even stronger than Ji Huang. With a faint smile and a slight deep breath, Qin Feng walked out of the crowd and walked toward the sword testing stage. Just as Qin Feng walked toward the sword testing stage, on a mountain not far from the Spirit Sword Peak, a young man in a blue robe was looking. Suddenly, a handsome young man appeared behind the young man in the blue robe. The young man lowered his head with a trace of respect in his eyes. "Cave Master, it's done. I have quietly revealed the news of Ao Feng's humiliation to Ao Kuan's people. If Qin Feng was here, he would definitely recognize this young man. This person was another person from the Mountain River City. The young master of the Su family, Su Fei. Su Fei and Qin Tianjiao had been following Li Mengmeng closely. Just now in the Spirit Sword Valley, they were nowhere to be seen. And listening to what he said, the trouble that Ao Feng caused Qin Feng was actually caused by these two people. The young man in the blue robe turned around and patted Su Fei's shoulder with a smile. "Good job." Su Fei hesitated slightly and wanted to say something. After a moment, he asked, "Cave Master, will Ao Kuan make a move? As far as I know, although he and Ao Feng are brothers, their relationship doesn't seem to be good?" The young man in the blue robe saw Su Fei's expression and smiled. "You want to say that the royal family has no affection, right?" "Yes, you're right, but because of this, Ao Kuan will definitely make a move." The young man in the blue robe turned around, looked at the clouds and said leisurely, "Ao Kuan, the third prince of Zhuzigua, a student of the previous generation of All Stars College, a veteran powerhouse of the Meridian stage. This is one of the top 10 battle teams of All Stars College, the Five Elements battle team. Qin Feng is destined to suffer a big loss this time. Fifth update in the afternoon. Chapter 184. Look, Qin Feng, the head of the Azure Dragon College, is going up? I wonder how the head of the Azure Dragon College will perform? I'm afraid he doesn't have much hope. Many people say that he became the head of the Azure Dragon College by luck. Not necessarily. To be able to become the head of the Azure Dragon College, one of the 4 colleges of All Stars College, without any real ability, it is impossible for him to reach that position. I don't think so. The Spirit Sword Peak competition is not about scheming or strength, but about the comprehension of the sword principle. The head of the Azure Dragon College may not be useful. Everyone's eyes fell on the black-robed teenager who was walking toward the sword testing stage, and there was some commotion in the bustling crowd. Qin Feng stepped toward the sword testing stage. When he was close to the sword testing stage, Qin Feng's face slightly changed. Qin Feng felt a kind of vibration. The tidal sword essence that Qin Feng comprehended seemed to be resonating with the invisible, inexplicable aura. Then, the invisible barrier on the sword testing stage seemed to melt, turning from an invisible resistance into a spring breeze. After a few steps, Qin Feng walked onto the sword testing stage. Qin Feng's eyes fell on the black sword on the sword testing stage. This huge black sword seemed to be pierced into the ground by someone from the sky, like an insurmountable mountain, with a majesty that pierced the sky. Qin Feng adjusted his breath and then opened his eyes. Gradually, a light blue sword qi flowed out from his body. Sensing the appearance of this sword qi, an invisible force on the black sword blessed Qin Feng. Qin Feng felt that he was 10 times, or even 100 times stronger. Rumble! The next moment, a thick blue sword light rose from Qin Feng's body and broke through the sky. The sky and the earth changed color, and then there was the roar of thunder. The first vision was sword qi soaring into the sky. The second vision was wind and clouds changing color. The third vision was thunder and lightning. The change of weather. Qin Feng's eyes glowed with a light blue luster. He stirred up the sword qi, as if he was in the middle of a tidal wave, releasing his own understanding of the tidal sword essence without reservation. A light blue rain of light appeared on the horizon. This was a sword rain formed by strands of tidal sword qi. This was the 4th phenomenon, sword rain. After a few breaths of time, numerous light blue sword lotuses appeared in the void, as if they were sculpted by the tide of seawater. The lotus leaves swayed in the wind, and it was extremely magnificent. This was the 5th phenomenon, void sword lotus. Water attribute tidal sword intent? Ji Huang Er's gaze fell on the light blue sword lotus, and her beautiful eyes flashed with traces of fluctuations. Just then, the 5th phenomenon in the sky disappeared. The distant horizon rumbled as tens of thousands of sword qi shot up into the sky. It was as if they could cut down the stars in the sky. Above the sky, a blue sun traversed the sky. It was as if a blue sun had pierced through the horizon. It was incomparably magnificent. This was the 6th phenomenon, grand white sunset. Clang clang clang. As Qin Feng unleashed his tidal sword intent to the extreme, everyone in the Spirit Sword Valley seemed to hear the sound of a tidal wave. Countless ancient swords on the sword mountains emitted crisp and joyful sword cries. Ancient swords soared into the sky and circled around the black-robed youth's head in the center of the Spirit Sword Valley Square. The 7th phenomenon, 10,000 swords greeting. The square was in an uproar. Each and every sword genius widened their eyes. The 7th phenomenon, Qin Feng can actually induce the 7th phenomenon. In the dark, the purple-clothed youth Wen Hong, who was watching this scene from the corner of the square, almost ground his teeth to pieces. He couldn't believe it. Beside Wen Hong, there were many extraordinary donors gathered. A group of young men and women looked at each other while looking at the phenomenon in the sky. On the other side, Tuoba Yi glanced at Yuan Daozhen, who was not far away, and smiled. Sure enough, to be able to become the head of the Azure Dragon Institute, this Qin Feng is definitely not an ordinary person. Hearing this, the pink-clothed girl beside Tuoba Yi rolled her eyes at Tuoba Yi, and a faint charming smile appeared on her pretty face. Tuoba Yi, did you once think that he was lucky enough to become the head of the Azure Dragon Institute? This kind of thinking shouldn't appear in someone like you. Tuoba Yi smiled bitterly. The cultivation that this head of the Azure Dragon Institute revealed is too deceptive, just like a scorpion in the desert, always hiding his body under the yellow sand. The pink-clothed girl chuckled. There is no such thing as luck in All Stars College. My intuition was indeed correct. Looking at this scene, Ji Huang Er's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of surprise as she thought to herself. This cunning and lecherous fellow is indeed not that simple. The head of the Azure Dragon Institute? Not far away, Li Qiubai and Lu Canyang looked at each other. They didn't know why, but they had a feeling that they were in the same boat. The two of them were originally the top geniuses of the Azure Dragon Institute. However, after entering the institute for 2 months, they had repeatedly suffered setback. No, I obtained the 7 Extinction Ancestors' legacy and cultivated the 7 Extinction Sword Dao. This is the glory of my Cloud Water Empire's Lu family. I will never lose to Qin Feng, this country bumpkin. Never. Roaring in his heart, Lu Canyang cut off the negative thoughts in his heart. At this moment, his essence, energy, and spirit had actually improved by another step. Lu Canyang was indeed one of the top geniuses. Following the end of the 7th phenomenon, the 8th phenomenon didn't appear. As the phenomenon dissipated, Qin Feng raised his head. Xiao, 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 a dense sound of something breaking through the air was heard. Nearly 100 sword shadows flew over from the horizon, surrounding the black-robed youth. Sword shadows filled the sky, shining with spiritual light. Qin Feng had a feeling of being dazzled. Qin Feng swept a glance over these spiritual swords. Most of these spiritual swords were of the 3 attributes of water, wood, and wind. More than half of them were of the water attribute. The most dazzling ones were undoubtedly the 2 water attribute high-grade spiritual swords in front. The 2 spiritual swords emitted a faint blue light, as if they were born from the sea. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a faint trace of excitement. High-grade spiritual swords, this kind of treasure, even in a first-rate sect like Xingqian School, I'm afraid it's rare. This kind of opportunity only comes once in a lifetime. Qin Feng's eyes fell on the first high-grade spiritual sword. At this time, a line of shimmering words gradually appeared on the black sword. Blue Water Frost Dew Sword, also known as Blue Water Sword or Frost Dew Sword, is a high-grade spiritual sword of the water attribute. It is forged from the extremely rare blue water frost iron essence in the Blue Sea Abyss. The sword is 3 feet and 4 inches long and innately contains a trace of blue water frost force. It is the 17,000-year-old sword of the Peak Master of Water Winnowing Peak. North Sea Heavenly Water Sword, a high-grade spiritual sword of the water attribute. The body of the sword is nurtured from a rare North Sea Heavenly Water essence that has been nurtured in the Xianming Abyss for countless years. The sword is 4 feet and 6 inches long and innately contains a trace of North Sea primordial water. 2,100 years ago, it was the sword of the 94th headmaster of Xingqian School. Qin Feng's eyes fell on the 2 high-grade spiritual swords. Which one should I choose? Qin Feng pondered in his heart and hesitated. These 2 spiritual swords were both high-grade spiritual swords of the water attribute, and their levels were almost the same. In Qin Feng's eyes, they were both high-grade spiritual swords of excellent quality. Qin Feng's eyes first landed on the Jade Water Frost Dew Sword. This Jade Water Frost Dew sword contained a trace of Jade Water Frost power. This sword could be said to be a high-grade spiritual sword that contained the power of ice and water. One slash of the sword could freeze 1,000 miles. As for the other North Sea Heavenly Water Sword, it contained a trace of North Sea primordial water, which had a terrible devouring and eroding power. This spiritual sword also had a great temptation to Qin Feng. In the end, Qin Feng still chose the North Sea Heavenly Water Sword. There was no other reason than that this spiritual sword had a pure water attribute and would benefit him the most. After Qin Feng confirmed his choice, the North Sea Heavenly Water Sword issued a joyful sword cry. At the same time, the other spiritual swords buzzed several times and unwillingly revolved around Qin Feng for a few laps. Then, they turned into streamers and disappeared in the sky above the Spirit Sword Valley. The next moment, the North Sea Heavenly Water Sword turned into a blue light that covered Qin Feng. A substantial and majestic water attribute spiritual energy directly poured into Qin Feng from the top of his head. Qin Feng's imposing manner began to fluctuate. This is the 5th update, there are 2 more updates in the evening. Brothers, please recommend me, please collect me, please reward me. Chapter 185. Wisps of seemingly solid aura shot out from the pores all over Qin Feng's body, as if invisible waves were pushing the air. High-grade Spirit Sword feedback, Sword Qi into the body. Middle 9th Heavenly Layer, late 9th Heavenly Layer, Xiantian True Qi in the meridians formed waves. 16th, 17th, and 18th True Qi. Qin Feng operated a secret technique to suppress his realm and condense Xiantian True Qi. However, the pure water spirit Qi continued to pour into his meridians. He couldn't suppress it. Bang, bang, bang. A series of Qi burst out from his body, and a surging Qi burst out. The second divine gate was easily shattered, and the second divine treasure's essence Qi merged into Qin Feng's body. The early stage of the 10th Heavenly Layer, the middle stage of the 10th Heavenly Layer, the late stage of the 10th Heavenly Layer, and the peak of the 10th Heavenly Layer. Under the shocked expressions of the geniuses, Qin Feng's Qi rose steadily, and he was about to break through the 11th Heavenly Layer. Shocking! Is he going to break through 2 major realms at once? Many geniuses observed the rising Qi of the black-robed youth, and their jaws almost fell to the ground. This was too shocking. This perverted guy's foundation is too strong. Ji Huang clenched her teeth. Even she was shocked to see this kind of breakthrough. Looking at the black-robed youth with a gloomy face, Zhao Xikong thought to himself with a heavy heart. No wonder this guy can easily kill enemies of a higher realm. That technique of his actually turns all his strength into foundation. Lu Chunyang smiled. My brother is indeed better than others. Qin Feng suppressed this wild trend. Now was not the time to erupt. Innate primordial chaos unity Qi was the first Qi and foundation. It was known as the foundation of all ages, and it could soar to the sky. The 13th Heavenly Layer was the best time to erupt. Suppress. Qin Feng gritted his teeth and tried his best to suppress this impulse. For him, this was a bit of torture. As the innate primordial chaos unity Qi circulated, the majestic innate primordial chaos true Qi gradually fell and compressed into some hidden acupoint. Qin Feng's Qi began to retreat. Peak of the 10th Heavenly Layer, late 10th Heavenly Layer, middle 10th Heavenly Layer. Compressing to the middle stage of the 10th Heavenly Layer was already close to the limit. Many geniuses looked at this scene in astonishment. What's going on? Why did Qin Feng's cultivation level regress? He couldn't have suffered a backlash, right? Someone hesitated and guessed. I don't think so. Instead, it's more like he's suppressing his cultivation? Why is he suppressing his cultivation? In order to break through to the pulse condensation period, I once heard the elders of my family say that in this world, There are some powerhouses that will actively use a secret method to suppress their progress before breaking through a large realm. It is said that this can increase the chances of breaking through. So that's how it is. No wonder Qin Feng is able to kill enemies above his level. He's suppressing his cultivation base. The gazes of the surrounding youths all fell on Qin Feng with a hint of realization. At this moment, Qin Feng opened his eyes. Feeling the surging true qi in his body, Qin Feng revealed a trace of a smile. He slightly extended his hand, and what was surprising was that a simple sword seemed to emerge from his hand. The simple style of the sword was like flowing water under the sunlight. It was like autumn water, chilling to the heart. Dark North Godly Water Sword. As Qin Feng held the Dark North Godly Water Sword, he suddenly had a terrifying confidence. If he met Jin Xiaowang again, he would be able to kill him with a single sword strike. Qin Feng took out the ancient sword from his back. Looking at the ancient sword with the fanged sword hilt, Qin Feng lightly stroked it. This ancient sword had been with him for a long time. This sword had been stained with the blood of many powerful enemies. If such an ancient sword was in a family like the Qin family in Upper River Town, it could be considered a family heirloom. Clang! Qin Feng pulled out the ancient sword. A snow-white sharp blade appeared in front of Qin Feng's eyes. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a cold light. He gathered his strength and threw the ancient sword towards a sword mountain 1,000 feet away. In the void, a faint cold light flickered. The ancient sword went straight into a sword mountain a few thousand feet away. Qin Feng glanced at the sword mountain indifferently and walked down from the sword testing stage. Just as Qin Feng threw the ancient sword, a disciple of the deity Sword Manor secretly took out a pen and quickly recorded it down. Year XX, month XX, All Stars College's Azure Dragon Institute's first seat was buried under the nameless ancient sword and the 560th rock of the Dragon Head Peak. This sword is nameless. It is about 1 meter and 4 inches long. The sword style is simple and has the fangs of a beast. Junior Qin Feng, congratulations! Bai Yun was the first to welcome him. The young girl's pretty face revealed a trace of absolute beauty. Yunemo followed up and glanced at the black-robed young man. Finally, her gaze landed on the Northern Underworld Divine Water sword on Qin Feng's back. A trace of envy flashed across her beautiful eyes without any change in expression. She lightly snorted and said, "Congratulations." Was this girl trying to reconcile? Qin Feng looked at the black-robed young girl in surprise. What answered Qin Feng was the black-robed young girl's footsteps as she turned around. Qin Feng smiled bitterly. At this moment, a fist wind blasted over. Qin Feng frowned and revealed a trace of a smile. He didn't dodge or evade. The fist and flesh collided. With a bang, a strange cry was heard. "What a hard chest! Lu Chunyang, attacking my chest as soon as we meet. That's not very good, is it?" Qin Feng looked at Lu Chunyang with a faint smile. "I'm not like the few senior sisters. My chest is as hard as iron. Brother Qin, I haven't seen you for 2 months. You're getting more and more humorous." A wave of heat came and a red-robed young man appeared in front of Qin Feng. It was none other than Lu Chunyang. 2 little hooligans. Senior Bai Yun at the side rolled her eyes at the black-robed young man. Yunemo snorted. "Senior sister, you just realize that this stinking hooligan is a wolf in disguise. He's so lecherous. None of them are good people." Qin Feng glanced at the black-robed young girl and curled his lips. "So what if I'm lecherous? If we men aren't lecherous, what do you women use to solve it? Use a stick?" Yunemo was stunned. Then, her delicate and charming face revealed a trace of unconcealable blush. Yunemo clenched her teeth with a trace of anger and embarrassment. "You big pervert, how dare you say such words?" Qin Feng smiled faintly. "What kind of words did I say? You!" Yunemo almost fainted from anger. "Junior sister, you should talk less with your junior brother." Bai Yun pulled Yunemo over. Bai Yun's face was a little red. Thinking of Qin Feng's words just now, Bai Yun complained in her heart. Junior brother is really too much. How can he say such words in front of a girl? It's too shameful. Senior sister, you're spoiling him. Yunemo snorted angrily, waved her sleeves and left. Bai Yun glanced at Qin Feng, shook her head, and hurried to catch up with her. Lu Chunyang didn't pay attention to these two beautiful senior sisters. His eyes fell on the North Sea godly water sword on Qin Feng's back. He said with his eyes wide open, "That's an advanced spiritual sword? It's incredible." Lu Chunyang's eyes revealed envy. To be able to own an advanced spiritual sword, he would wake up laughing in his dreams. Qin Feng, congratulations. Not far away, Yu Yao also stepped forward. Looking at the black-robed young man in front of her, especially the advanced spiritual sword on his back, Yu Yao's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of amazement. "You're too polite." Qin Feng nodded and smiled. Slightly narrowing her eyes, Yu Yao's face became serious. "Qin Feng, I'm here to convey a few words on the princess's order. Her Highness wants you to be careful of a person. This person may be harmful to you." "Who is it?" Qin Feng's heart skipped a beat as his expression turned serious. "This person is called Ao Kuan." Seeing Qin Feng looking at her, Yu Yao continued. "This person is a former All-Stars College student. His strength is estimated to have reached the Meridian's condensation stage. He is also Ao Feng's elder brother. Still at 5 p.m., this is the first update. The second update is at 1 a.m. Brothers, please recommend, collect, reward." Chapter 186. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng asked, "What kind of methods does Ao Kuan have?" Yu Yao's eyes flickered as she said indifferently, "Ao Kuan is a very difficult person to deal with. He's cold, insidious, cruel, and ruthless. Although he's the eldest prince of Zhuzi country, he's not favored by the emperor. But this person's talent is not inferior to his younger brother, Ao Feng." With that, Yu Yao glanced at Qin Feng. "And the difference is that this person is 100 times more difficult to deal with than Ao Feng. The most important thing is that Ao Kuan is still a member of the 5 Elements Squad, one of the top 10 squads of All-Stars College. His status is not low. He's now the captain of a small squad of the 5 Elements Squad." Qin Feng raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Looks like this time, we've attracted a tough opponent." Yu Yao frowned. "Qin Feng, don't underestimate the enemy. This person isn't famous for his cultivation, but his vicious and cruel methods. Those who make an enemy out of him usually don't have a good ending. If it's light, they'll have their arms and legs broken. If it's heavy..." Qin Feng raised his head. "If it's heavy?" Yu Yao shook her head. "I've heard that this person once skinned a foreign baby alive in the Savage Desolation region and brought it back as a trophy." Qin Feng smiled. "That's it?" Yu Yao couldn't help but say. "Qin Feng, you have to be careful. This person isn't like Ao Feng. This person is vicious and cruel." "He's vicious and cruel." Qin Feng turned around and looked at Yu Yao with a faint smile. "Believe me, I'm more vicious and cruel than him." Yu Yao was startled. Then, she remembered the terrifying methods of this black-robed youth. Memories of the past emerged in her mind. Yu Yao shook her head in self-mockery. She was worried for nothing. The one who should be worried was Ao Kuan. After provoking such a terrifying devil, Ao Kuan's good days were numbered. Walking down the sword testing stage, Qin Feng didn't stay in the Spirit Sword Valley for long. After greeting Lu Chunyang, Li Zhuang, Yu Yao, and the others, Qin Feng rushed toward the Scarlet Sky Peak. Having obtained the Northern Darkness Godly Water Sword, Qin Feng had a feeling that no matter if it was the 9th level of the Little Art of Cloud and Rain or the 8th level of the Gung Gold Slaughtering Art, it would be a smooth journey. With a soft cry that reverberated through Yun Peak, Qin Feng's body leaped up, as though he was soaring through the clouds. In the sky, a large snow-white bird lowered its wings. Qin Feng stood on the back of the silly bird. Whoosh! A ball of blazing light appeared not far away. Several hundred steps away, Ji Huang'er appeared in Qin Feng's field of vision while riding on the burning sky sparrow. This is that white sparrow? Ji Huang'er's beautiful eyes fell on the silly bird at Qin Feng's feet. As expected, this white sparrow is not ordinary. To be able to evolve from an ordinary white sparrow into a white jade ice sparrow in merely 2 months, Qin Feng, you are indeed treacherous. Ji Huang'er clearly misunderstood. Looking up at the stunning beauty on the burning sky sparrow, Qin Feng sneered. Ji Huang'er, don't wrongly accuse a good person. I Qin Feng am an honest person. I'm afraid the one who is treacherous is you, Miss Ji Huang'er. Using 70 points to buy a burning sky sparrow, I think there is no one more treacherous than you in this world. Ji Huang'er's beautiful face stiffened, and a moment later, it turned into a cold snort. The burning sky sparrow carrying her turned into a flame and flew toward the horizon in the blink of an eye. Only a cold and leisurely voice was heard. Qin Feng, I hope you can still be so stubborn after a month. I'm stubborn. Qin Feng licked his dry lips and suddenly shouted in the direction of Ji Huang'er's flight with his true qi. Head Ji, in fact, my mouth is very soft. In the future, I'll find an opportunity to let you have a taste. The stunning figure on the burning sky sparrow's body instantly froze. The burning sky sparrow's speed slowed down, and very quickly, it abruptly turned back. A red light pierced through the sky from 100 zhang away. Blazing red flames surged like a meteor, as if even the void was pierced through. No way. So ruthless. You actually used the burning sky blood flame to burn me? Qin Feng was shocked. There was no need for Qin Feng to urge. The silly bird under his feet was quick-witted, and in an instant, it flew out dozens of zhang, disappearing into the sea of clouds in an instant. Shameless person. Ji Huang'er's beautiful face was angry. Looking at the pure white bird that escaped without a trace, her face was full of coldness. Staring at the black-robed youth for a long time, Ji Huang'er's eyelids twitched. She was considering whether or not to give this scoundrel another blow. After a long while, Ji Huang'er snorted and finally dispelled this idea. She urged the burning sky sparrow to fly toward Golden Parasol Mountain. After the two left, the 3 famous figures of All Stars College appeared in the air one after another. Looking at the direction Ji Huang'er left, one of the famous figures said, "Old friends, did you hear it clearly? He said that Firebird is the burning sky sparrow?" One of the famous figures said, "I heard it clearly. He just said that he bought a burning sky sparrow for 70 points. The first famous figure nodded. "Yeah, old man, when did the spirit beast store under your hands start to sell true spirits? And it's so cheap. You only need 70 points to buy a true spirit burning sky sparrow." The red face of the famous figure instantly turned green, then from green to purple, and squeezed out words from his teeth. "I also want to take a look. How do those bastards sell true spirits?" Looking at the red-faced old man whose head was about to emit green smoke, the other 2 old men chuckled, laughing incomparably carefree. The sea of clouds was boundless. Qin Feng rode the white jade ice sparrow alone among the white clouds. At this time, it was a bit lonely. Senior sister Baiyun and senior sister Yunemo had both left. The 2 senior sisters both served in the Spirit Origin Hall and had their own missions. It seems that the following time will be spent in seclusion again, Qin Feng thought to himself. But this time, it seems that those geniuses from the Xingqian school did not appear. Thinking of the legendary disciples from the Xingqian school, Qin Feng frowned. The competitors on the surface were not scary, but the people in the dark were the scariest. It seems that I must quickly cultivate the little art of cloud and rain and gung metal sword art to the Deshang level. Just as Qin Feng was deep in thought, an ethereal sound of a flute suddenly came from the sea of clouds. Qin Feng slightly tilted his head to listen. Suddenly, his face changed and he stood up. Turning around, he saw a white-clothed youth riding a red-tasseled crane appear in the sea of clouds hundreds of feet behind him. This white-clothed youth's face was cold, as if it had been carved by a knife. The white jade flute by his mouth was blowing, and a low moaning sound came out. Waves of indeterminate flute music came out. Qin Feng suddenly covered his head with his hands. His head suddenly felt dizzy, as if he was drunk. A special invisible wave went straight to the depths of his soul. At the same time, the ground under his feet suddenly swayed. The white jade ice sparrow was obviously affected by the flute music. It was actually drowsy and could not even fly stably. This is a song that confuses the mind? Not good, this person has bad intentions. Qin Feng felt a chill in his heart. A sense of death enveloped his heart like a cloud. Qin Feng heard Bai Yun talk about the 9 divine songs of All Stars College. Among the 9 divine songs, one of them was called the chaotic divine song. Could confuse the mind. When cultivated to a high level, it could even control the 7 emotions and 6 desires. It was very powerful. Who is this white-clothed youth? Is this person Alcuin? Does he want to throw us to death? Forcefully enduring the headache and dizziness, Qin Feng's entire body was sore and weak. His muscles seemed to have lost control. It was especially difficult to circulate his physical qi. Moving even a sliver was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. At this time, the silly bird under his feet could no longer block the demonic music. Its mind was in chaos and it spun towards the white clouds. If it fell to the ground now, it would definitely become a meat patty. This is the second update, the last wave of recommendation votes, bookmark. The third update will be tomorrow morning. Chapter 187. After being ambushed, Qin Feng and the bird fell into a life and death crisis within a few breaths of time. The white-clothed young man arrived on the back of the red-tasseled crane. His face was cold and his eyes were cold. The demonic tune of the jade flute became louder and louder. Strands of the chaotic god demonic tune attacked the soul of the man and the bird, exploding in the soul like cannonballs. What a despicable brat! Suppressing the headache, Qin Feng cursed in his heart. If not for Qin Feng's strong soul, he would have lost the ability to resist. However, a sinister smile flashed in Qin Feng's eyes as the tranquil heart mystic art flashed in his mind. Qin Feng was about to recite an incantation to calm his mind. Clang! 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 The dark north godly water sword on his back suddenly let out a crisp sword cry. The spiritual sword protected its master and instantly turned into a cold light and jumped into Qin Feng's hand. Clenching the dark north godly water sword tightly, Qin Feng looked at the dark north godly water sword in shock. In the next moment, a cold aura came from the dark north godly water sword. That cold aura enveloped Qin Feng's soul and isolated the chaotic god demonic tune. Good heavens! This dark north godly water sword has such an ability! Qin Feng was overjoyed. Holding the dark north godly water sword, he stood up. Now it's my turn to counterattack. Eat my sword. Qin Feng's eyes fall on the young man in white who is playing the flute. A cold, sharp light flashes like a sword. Holding the north deep godly water sword, Qin Feng gathers all of his power into the sword and slashes out. As the sword slashed out, a vast sword light broke through the air and slashed down. Not good! Seeing Qin Feng suddenly stand up, the white-clothed young man's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to increase his power and activate the chaotic god demonic tune again, a terrifying sword light was reflected in his eyes. As the sword light locked on, the white-clothed young man had a terrifying feeling that he could not avoid it. He's actually so strong. Feeling the terrifying power contained within the sword, the white-robed young man's eyes flashed with a trace of panic, which then turned into a trace of sternness. A trace of wild true power surged out from his body, trying its best to emerge from the jade flute in his mouth. The sound of the flute instantly became shrill and high-pitched. An invisible and thick air shield appeared around the white-clothed youth. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The unparalleled sword radiance descended from the sky and slashed at the young man in white. The sword radiance destroyed the chi shield as easily as crushing dry weeds and rotten wood. The remaining force did not stop and suddenly cut the red-tasseled crane under the young man in white in half. The red-tasseled crane let out a miserable shriek as the bloody light burst apart, splitting into two. Bang! The white-robed youth on the back of the bird was caught off guard and was struck in the chest by the sword light. His white robes were stained with blood, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body spun like a cannonball and fell towards the clouds. At the last moment, the inner armor that the white-clothed youth was wearing blocked the sword, and he was only heavily injured. However, after losing his mount, the red-tasseled crane, the white-clothed youth's heavily injured body fell from a high altitude. The outcome was self-evident. It was almost certain that he would die. Qin Feng was in a daze. The power of the sword radiance was somewhat beyond Qin Feng's imagination. The power was at least 2 times greater than what Qin Feng had expected. It was simply ferocious to the point of chaos. It actually sent the white-clothed youth, a high-grade meridian condensation stage expert, flying with a single sword radiance. In Qin Feng's estimation, this sword radiance would at most kill the red-tasseled crane and lightly injure the white-clothed youth. However, the result was that this sword radiance had heavily injured the white-clothed youth. If the white-clothed youth wasn't wearing an abnormally sturdy treasure armor, this sword radiance would have been enough to directly kill the white-clothed youth. This was the amplification ability of a high-grade spirit sword. At the very least, it was amplified by 2 to 3 times. It really is a good treasure. Fondling the spirit sword lovingly, Qin Feng's eyes revealed joy. With a clear bird cry, Silly Bird regained control of her body and stabilized herself. Spreading her wings, she flew towards Scarlet Sky Peak again. Qin Feng sat down cross-legged again, and began to use his Xiantian Qi to nourish the high-grade spirit sword. A spirit sword needed to be nourished before it could truly display its power. Furthermore, with the nourishment of its master's Qi, the spirit sword could even become stronger over time. While diverting his attention to circulate his Xiantian Qi to nourish the northern underworld godly water sword, Qin Feng's eyes were deep in thought. He thought of the white-clothed youth, who had suddenly appeared and ambushed him. However, who is that white-clothed youth? Why did he ambush me? As he pondered, Qin Feng thought of Yu Yao's hint. Could he really be Aokuan? No, although this white-clothed youth is also a meridian condensation stage expert and is not inferior to Jin Xiaowang, he is definitely not Aokuan. Forget it. No matter who he is, I will find him sooner or later. As he pondered over the events of the past few days, Qin Feng clearly felt that there was a mastermind behind all of this. This mastermind had left behind some clues and Qin Feng was currently investigating in secret. He only needed to wait for a little while more before coming to a conclusion. Several hours later, Scarlet Sky Peak was right in front of his eyes. The 10,000 feet tall peak was like a spine that pierced through the heavens. It was filled with spirit Qi, the Ganoderma grass exuded a youthful splendor, and the dense Qi was like a dragon. Looking at this divine peak, Silly Bird let out a joyful cry and spread her wings to pounce towards Scarlet Sky Peak. With a thought, a token flew out from Qin Feng's waist. The myriad stars token emitted a golden light that landed in the clouds surrounding Scarlet Sky Peak. The clouds rolled and a golden path appeared in the clouds. Qin Feng's figure leapt and grabbed the token in the air. His black clothes shot down from Silly Bird's body like an arrow and landed on the lakeside of Scarlet Sky Peak. As soon as he entered Scarlet Sky Peak, Qin Feng instantly felt that the atmosphere on Scarlet Sky Peak was not right. The atmosphere on Scarlet Sky Peak was tense. Looking around, there were medicine boys patrolling everywhere. The medicine boys, who were usually lazy, now had a serious expression on their faces. Their eyes were sharp and very careful. They were even equipped with sabers and swords. Qin Feng looked at this scene solemnly. Although the Scarlet Sky Peak was usually heavily patrolled, it was definitely not this exaggerated. There were crossings of sentries almost everywhere. There was a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 10 steps. It was as if they were facing a great enemy. Could it be that something happened to Scarlet Sky Peak after I left for a day? Qin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of annoyance. Cave Master, you have returned. From afar, a medicine boy saw the black-robed youth descending from the sky and hurriedly bowed respectfully. At this moment, Luan Xiaochuan also saw Qin Feng's return in a medicine field beside Scarlet Sky Peak. He hurriedly put down a stalk of herb in his hand and hurried over. Cave Master! Qin Feng pointed at the densely packed sentries beside Scarlet Sky Peak. Luan Xiaochuan, what's going on? Luan Xiaochuan followed Qin Feng's gaze and revealed a trace of a bitter smile. Cave Master, not long after you left, something big happened. The Medicine King Hall sent someone to inform us that the cave-guarding phase of the blessed lands around Scarlet Sky Peak, Yushui Peak, Sunset Peak, Purple Afterglow Peak, Azure Cloud Cave, and Jade Sea Lake were all stolen. What? The cave-guarding phase of these blessed lands were stolen? Qin Feng was greatly shocked. The core of these blessed lands were the cave-guarding phase. If the cave-guarding phase were to be taken lightly, these blessed lands would be downgraded or even crippled. Who is so daring to steal the cave-guarding phase? This is the 3rd update, the 4th update will be in the afternoon, and the 5th update will be in the afternoon. Chapter 188. Qin Feng was very familiar with the locations of Yushui Peak, Setting Sun Peak, Purple Afterglow Peak, Jade Sea Lake, and Azure Cloud Cave because they were all within a few hundred miles of the Scarlet Sky Peak. The first 3 were all Grade 6 Spirit Mountains, while the Jade Sea Lake and Azure Cloud Cave were famous Grade 5 Spirit Mountains. The cave-guarding spirit items of these Spirit Mountains had been stolen. This was simply trying to poke a hole in the sky. Qin Feng was very curious. Who was so daring to come to All Stars College's territory to steal spirit herbs? Who did it? Luan Xiaochuan asked. I'm not sure who did it. Qin Feng frowned. Then did you find any clues? Luan Xiaochuan asked. Not a single clue. Qin Feng was surprised. Could it be that those spirit items were stolen silently? Qin Feng found it inconceivable. The spirit mountains in the area occupied by All Stars College were all protected by dense formations. For example, Scarlet Sky Peak. Without Qin Feng's permission, ordinary people would never be able to enter. And cave-guarding spirit items were the most important. Normally, cave-guarding spirit items would be protected by terrifying formations. Even if someone stole them, it would take a certain amount of time to break the formations. This was enough for someone to find some clues. It was impossible for there to be no clues left behind. Luan Xiaochuan smiled bitterly. Indeed, that thief seemed to disregard the formations of the various peaks, and was able to come and go as he pleased. This matter has already caused a huge uproar in the Medicine King Hall. It is said that several important figures came to investigate, but they still didn't find anything. After speaking, Luan Xiaochuan glanced at Qin Feng and lowered his head. According to the news this subordinate received not long ago, the cave masters and medicine apprentices of those spirit mountains were stripped of their status as medicine garden disciples. Not long after the spirit herbs were stolen, they were taken away. It is said that all of them might become bonded workers. From a cave master to a bonded worker overnight, the price was undoubtedly huge. Qin Feng saw the worry in Luan Xiaochuan's eyes. Qin Feng was silent as he pondered in his heart. To pass through the restriction without making a sound, who on earth has such an ability? Could it be that this little thief has a restriction-breaking bead? Qin Feng recalled an ancient treasure called the restriction-breaking bead. The restriction-breaking bead was a special kind of treasure. It was a rare treasure refined by an ancient formation master. With it, one could break through most restrictions in the world. However, restriction-breaking pearls were extremely rare. It was rumored that they had been lost for a long time. Seeing that Qin Feng did not speak, Luan Xiaochuan could not help but say, "Cave Master, we are truly worried that our Scarlet Sky Peak will become the next target of that little thief," Luan Xiaochuan said in a low voice. "Our Scarlet Sky Peak is just a few hundred miles away from the blessed paradises where the stolen fays are located. Fortunately, other than our Scarlet Sky Peak, there are a few other blessed lands that are closer to the spiritual mountains." After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng raised his head and said, "You don't have to worry about guarding the cavern's spirit item. Just look after the 7 spirit herbs in the spirit garden." Luan Xiaochuan still wanted to say something, but Qin Feng waved his hand and said coldly, "Don't worry, no one can steal the jade water gold lotus right under my nose." As a formation master, Qin Feng would not be able to continue living if he allowed someone to steal the treasures he was guarding right under his nose. After returning to the Jade Water Cave, Qin Feng thought for a moment and used his means to set up some tricks and a few special small formations around the Lotus Pond's spring. These small formations were specifically targeted at the treasures within the restriction-breaking bead. If someone came to steal the spirit herbs with treasures like the restriction-breaking bead, Qin Feng would guarantee that he would give that person a huge surprise. For the next few days, Qin Feng stayed in the Jade Water Cave and cultivated the 9th level of the minor art of cloud and rain. 3 days later, Qin Feng successfully cultivated the 9th minor art of cloud and rain. Inside the cave, Qin Feng was sitting cross-legged on the edge of the lotus pond. The jade water and the golden lotus were swaying, and wisps of spiritual light illuminated the stone room. The spring was bubbling with spiritual water, and a black seal was floating in Qin Feng's palm. This black seal slowly floated in front of Qin Feng. The black seal gave off a dark glow. Qin Feng's expression froze. His 10 fingers intersected, and he rapidly formed a series of hand seals. Gradually, this black seal was swallowed by Qin Feng. He slowly refined it. Wang wang wang. The dark north godly water sword vibrated and spat out wisps of spirit energy to help Qin Feng refine the minor art of cloud and rain. He easily cultivated the 9th level of the minor art of cloud and rain. Qin Feng raised a hand and a layer of faint black water vapor appeared in his palm. This was the one sky primordial water. A drop of it was enough to revive a withered tree. The one sky primordial water was one of the 36 types of acquired primordial water. It was a type of acquired primordial water that gathered the vitality of all the water in the world. With the dark north godly water sword by his side, Qin Feng's comprehension of the water element was like he had a key to unlock the treasure of the Xian Wu bloodline. Some of the water element profundities only needed to be slightly grasped to be able to create spiritual objects. This feeling was like the help of the gods. Qin Feng had a feeling that not only the 9th level of the minor art of cloud and rain, the 10th, 11th, and even the 12th level would be smooth sailing. Also, the bottleneck of the 8th level of the Gung Metal Killing Sword Manual had loosened. Under this guidance, Qin Feng's comprehension of the tidal sword intent also rose along with the tide. Qin Feng estimated that in a few more days, he could push the Gung Metal Killing Sword Manual to the 8th level. While cultivating, Qin Feng did not shut off his understanding of the outside world. These days, the thief that stole the spiritual herbs seemed to have ceased all activity. There was no more news of him, as though he had disappeared after doing this big job. The Scarlet Sky Peak did not let down its guard. Luan Xiaochuan and the rest patrolled even more diligently, day and night. They even increased the number of hidden sentries. According to Luan Xiaochuan, This was the calm before the storm. The thief might be secretly watching the Scarlet Sky Peak, waiting for them to let down their guard and slack off. Qin Feng did not dampen the enthusiasm of Luan Xiaochuan and the rest. However, Qin Feng felt that something was strange these days. It seemed that ever since he returned, he had not seen Lord Ba. He did not know what this strange bird was fiddling with these days. There was no sign of it at all. It was very mysterious. Qin Feng asked Luan Xiaochuan and the rest. According to Luan Xiaochuan, Lord Ba was sleeping these days. Day and night, it was lazing in its old nest on the withered tree. According to Lord Ba, it was cultivating. Qin Feng had coincidentally seen Lord Ba once, but strangely, Lord Ba had grown an extra strand of hair. It was a tail plume that was growing on Lord Ba's chubby butt. It was extremely ugly. Qin Feng also felt that it was extremely strange when he saw it. Ever since Lord Ba was captured from the Poison God territory, it had not grown a single strand of hair for 3 years. After it followed Jiang Yi back, it actually started to grow hair. Qin Feng guessed. Could it be that this crafty fellow finally has a little sense of shame and knows that it is not good to run around naked? On the 4th day, Qin Feng, who was cultivating, was suddenly awakened. Luan Xiaochuan walked into the Jade Water Cave with a grave expression. He brought with him a piece of bad news. That thief has committed another crime. This time, it is the Azure Wood Peak. The Azure Wood Peak was a spiritual mountain-blessed land that was adjacent to the Scarlet Sky Peak. The cave guardian Fae was a high-grade mystic Fae, the Azure Dragon Divine Wood. This is the 4th update. The 5th update is in the afternoon. Seeking recommendation ticket. Seeking collection. Chapter 189. The Azure Dragon Divine Wood was a spiritual wood born from the aura of a true dragon. The Azure Dragon Divine Wood contained an extremely strong vitality and emitted a mysterious fragrance. Anyone who took a whiff of it would be able to recover, no matter how serious their injuries were. If one were to cut off a section of it, grind it into powder and swallow it, even a broken arm or leg could be regrown. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon Divine Wood also had a precious ability to purify the bloodline of savage beasts and awaken the power of their ancestors. This time, his target is the Divine Wood Peak. It seems like his next target will be my Scarlet Sky Peak. Within the Jade Water Cave, Qin Feng sat cross-legged with a distant look in his eyes. "Cave Master, what should we do?" Luan Xiaochuan asked with a gloomy expression. "You only need to look after the 7 stalks of spiritual herbs in the spiritual garden. Your mission is to protect these 7 stalks of spiritual herbs. You don't need to worry about anything else. This cave master would like to see who is so audacious as to steal spiritual herbs one after another." Qin Feng's gaze fell upon the Jade Water Cave. Beside the lotus pond in the Jade Water Cave, there was originally a set of 72 layers of Earth Fiend restriction that was equivalent to the Heaven Spirit restriction. Outside the lotus pond, there was also a level 5 innate wood transformation array set up by an expert in the Tao of Array. This array was as stable as Mount Tai. However, during this period of time, Qin Feng also upgraded this level 5 innate wood transformation array. According to the topography of this place where water and wood coexisted, he set up a level 6 Mystic Origin 2 phases Spirit Refining Array with the Jade Water Golden Lotus as the array core and the Spirit Spring as the second array core. Even if a martial overlord were to come, they would suffer a great loss if they were caught off guard by a level 6 array. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Sitting cross-legged in the Jade Water Cave, Qin Feng's body was currently emitting strands of pale blue sword qi. Slowly, strands of formless sword qi gathered on Qin Feng's palm. A pale blue longsword formed from formless sword qi appeared on Qin Feng's palm. 8 qi formless sword edge. Golden Gung Slaughter Sword Art, Level 8. Qin Feng opened his eyes and a sharp sword light flashed. A glimmer of joy flashed through his eyes. Qin Feng didn't move and closed his eyes again, deducing the 10th level of Little Art of Cloud and Rain. Qin Feng felt that he was not far from mastering the 10th level. Quietly, another 3 days passed. As the curtain of night descended, the stars were hidden within the layers of clouds. The heat of the day faded away as lanterns were lit within some of the pavilions and buildings on Scarlet Sky Peak. The sparks of fire were exceptionally beautiful in the sea of clouds, bringing with them traces of warmth. By the lakeside of the Heavenly Lake, a group of 5 to 6 medical apprentices walked past with torches in their hand. Each of the medical apprentices' eyes were bright and full of vigor as they scanned through some dark and dense medicinal plants. Luan Xiaochuan personally led a group of people over from the Spirit Garden. At the same time, Su Jia led a group of medicine boys over from the other side, arriving at the Spirit Garden. This kind of patrol had no blind spots at all. On the Black Water Spirit Peachwood, Silly Bird had built an enormous nest in the tree. Silly Bird's eyes were wide as she scanned. Compared to the medicine boys, a bird like Silly Bird had a naturally sharp vision. Croak, croak, another divine wood has been stolen. Furthermore, it's the azure dragon divine wood that is exceptionally beneficial to savage beasts. Who is stealing the spirit herbs? Grandpa Ba was comfortably in his bird's nest. His bird's nest was extremely luxurious, and the materials used to construct the bird's nest were not ordinary tree branches. Instead, they came from a spirit tree. The leaves in the bird's nest were tender and glistening. Spiritual energy flowed around them, and the essence energy was brilliant. Obviously, these were spirit leaves. Lord Ba looked extremely strange at this moment. There was a strand of jet-black hair on his head, and a tail feather on his buttocks that trembled as his buttocks shook. There was not a single hair on his body and he was chubby. Who is it? Lord Ba's jet-black eyes spun around as he muttered in his heart. Could it be that this uncle has a sibling or something like that? Lord Ba, who was in the bird's nest, flipped over and got up. His eyes shone with excitement, but in the next moment, his eyes dimmed. Lord Ba returned to his lazy state and lazily lay down in the bird's nest. Looking at the starry sky, impossible. If they are of the same race as this uncle should be able to sense it. Who is it that stole it? This uncle only took the 6-leaf purple lotus from the purple afterglow peak and the Maha black sunflower from the setting sun peak. I did not touch anything else. Lord Ba muttered in his heart. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over. A faint fragrance wafted over with the wind. What is it? It smells so good. Lord Ba raised his head. However, in the next moment, Lord Ba's expression instantly froze. His pair of big black eyes froze in an instant, as if time had stopped. The faint fragrance was like smoke rising in spirals from the bright moon in the sky. Under the push of the wind, it transformed into wisps that enveloped the entire Scarlet Sky Peak. The white jade ice sparrow on the mystic water spirit peachwood, which was about to fly out, froze. Under the tree, a group of patrolling apprentices suddenly stopped in their tracks. They held their torches and remained motionless. Their eyes were stiff, as if they had lost their spirit. 2 apprentices who were whispering to each other even maintained the appearance of whispering to each other. At the edge of the spirit garden, Luan Xiaochuan, who was about to take out his water bottle to drink, froze. The clear spirit water poured out along with the raised water bottle, wetting his clothes. The patrolling apprentices instantly froze and their eyes lost their spirit. It was as if time had stopped at this moment. At the edge of the sky, a wisp of gray cloud descended like a big bird and landed beside the heavenly lake. A mysterious figure raised his head and looked at this scene with cold eyes. This was a mysterious man in gray. The man in gray seemed to be shrouded in a gray robe. His entire body was filled with a gloomy and cold aura, only revealing a pair of cruel and indifferent eyes. What kind of eyes were that? They had experienced the vicissitudes of life, emotionless, and carried a trace of gloominess that was difficult to conceal. I have to speed up. The time incense that I refined can only fool them for less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. I have to break the restriction array within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn and obtain the jade aqua golden lotus. The gray-robed man muttered with an old voice. Suddenly, the expression of the gray-robed man changed, and he spoke with a young voice that was different from the first one. Yes, revered elder. Don't worry. Looking around, the gray-robed man's eyes revealed a trace of excitement. The gray-robed man silently walked past a group of apprentices. The leader of this group was Su Jie. However, everyone, including Su Jie, acted as if they didn't see this black-robed man. Their eyes lost their spirit and their bodies stiffened. Jade Aqua Cave. Looking up at the three big words that were emitting a jade gold fluorescent light, the gray-robed man sneered and pushed open the door. That direction. That's the place with the most abundant spiritual energy in the Jade Aqua Cave. The cave guardian's spiritual item should be there. An old voice sounded from the gray-robed man's body. This Scarlet Sky Peak is a high-grade spiritual mountain. The Jade Aqua Golden Lotus shouldn't be the only spiritual item. I only need the Jade Aqua Golden Lotus. You can take the other spiritual herbs yourself. Nodding his head, the gray-robed man smiled. Thank you, revered elder. 15 minutes later, the gray-robed man arrived at the garden where the Jade Aqua Golden Lotus Pond was located. A black-robed young man was meditating quietly at the edge of the garden. The black-robed young man had his eyes closed. His breathing was calm, as if he didn't notice the gray-robed man's arrival. Just like the disciples outside, he was frozen. This is the Jade Aqua Golden Lotus. The gray-robed man's gaze was attracted by the huge Jade Aqua Lotus in the middle of the pond. However, he quickly came to his senses. His gaze shifted and in the next moment, he noticed the black-robed young man who was meditating quietly. The gray-robed man was startled. Then, a trace of resentment and anger flashed across his eyes. Qin Feng. This is the 5th update. There are 2 more updates in the evening. Please recommend it. Please add it to your collection. I just saw a brother's complaint. I'll make it clear. The first update is at 12:05 p.m. The second update is at 1 p.m. If you can't wait, it's the same if you wake up tomorrow morning. Chapter 190. The gray-robed man glared at the black-robed young man. His eyes were filled with hatred and anger. Qin Feng. Very well, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. The gray-robed man laughed loudly. A wisp of cruel, sword-like killing intent appeared in his eyes. He shook his sleeve, and an extremely cold and strange sword appeared in his hand. He walked towards the black-robed young man. Little brat, hold on. Pausing, Qian Kai's eyes revealed a trace of hatred as he roared in a low voice. Respected elder, why? Qian Kai respected this voice very much. Without the help of this voice, he would not have been able to obtain so many opportunities and his current cultivation. An old voice reminded the gray-robed man in his mind. Little brat, don't be too reckless. Qin Feng is very evil. Don't think that you are the only one who hates him. I can't wait to skin this little bastard who has repeatedly disobeyed me and cut him into 1,000 pieces. But this brat has a trace of evil on him. I feel that something is wrong. The old voice was very wary of Qin Feng. The old voice had suffered greatly at the hands of Qin Feng, especially in the depths of Qin Feng's spiritual altar. The old voice would never forget that kind of helplessness and despair. Qian Kai clenches his teeth. Qian Kai's hatred towards Qin Feng could not be washed away even with all the water in the lake. Qin Feng could not forget the humiliation this black-robed young man gave him. Such a good opportunity was hard to come by. Qian Kai's eyes flashed. The old voice seemed to see through Qian Kai's mind. A trace of dignity went straight into the depths of Qian Kai's soul. Little brat, the most important thing now is the Jade Water Golden Lotus. As long as you get the jade water golden lotus and gather the other elixirs, I will be able to be reborn. With me around, you don't have to worry about Qin Feng. Next, think about how Qin Feng will end up as the cave master of Jade Water Cave once you take this Jade Water Golden Lotus away. At that time, you won't even have to kill him. The Pill King Hall will take care of him. Isn't it much better to let him suffer for 100 years and regret it for the rest of his life than to kill him directly? The last sentence of the old voice moved Qian Kai. Fine. Qian Kai looked at Qin Feng viciously and said coldly, Qin Feng, I won't kill you today. I won't let you die like this. I'll let you taste the feeling of falling from the sky to the ground. I will torture you bit by bit and make you beg for death. Very good. Qian Kai, I really didn't misjudge you. The aged voice praised. You are indeed a person who can achieve great things. You have a broad chest, know when to yield and when to stand tall, and can endure for a while. Don't worry, Qin Feng is nothing. With me around, you will shine brightly sooner or later, and become an expert in the eyes of millions. As for this Qin Feng, although he is proud for a while, such a person is destined to be stepped on by you. At that time, you can do whatever you want to him. Nodding, Qian Kai glared at the black-robed young man. His eyes were filled with hatred and coldness. After a while, his gaze fell on the jade water golden lotus in the lotus pond. Qian Kai took out a jade-green spiritual pearl from his bosom. The spiritual pearl emitted a faint light. Quickly, use the restriction-breaking pearl. There isn't much time left. The aged voice sounded anxious. All right. Qian Kai's eyes flashed and his gaze fell on the black-robed young man. Qin Feng, let's see how you explain it to the Medicine King Hall after I take the Jade Water Golden Lotus. Qian Kai thought inwardly. This time, not only will I take the Jade Water Golden Lotus, I will also destroy the Scarlet Sky Peak. Even if you work for All Stars College for a lifetime, it won't be enough to repay me. Qian Kai's eyes flickered with a sinister and complacent light. He urged the restriction-breaking pearl to fly toward the layers of invisible restrictions at the edge of the lotus pond. The restriction-breaking bead glowed with a dark green light, and the layers of invisible restrictions in the air melted away like ice. Slowly, a large hole appeared, big enough for people to enter. Qian Kai looked at the jade water golden lotus with joy. When the restriction-breaking pearl broke the jade water golden lotus's protective restriction, Qian Kai didn't notice that the black-robed young man sitting cross-legged not far away suddenly opened his eyes. Holding the North Nether Godly Water sword in one hand, his figure flashed and arrived like a dragon from the 9 heavens. A sword ray that pierced through the darkness silently shot out and went straight for Qian Kai's back. Not good, be careful behind you. The aged voice was the first to detect the sudden change. Qian Kai's eyes flickered with astonishment. Enveloped by the sword ray, Qian Kai felt as though he was engulfed by a dense aura of death and was unable to breathe. Forcefully suppressing the fear in his heart, Qian Kai's sleeve slid and a light gray, odd-looking sharp blade appeared in his hand. A sinister light flickered in Qian Kai's eyes. He didn't dodge the sharp blade that was going straight for his back. Instead, he straightened the odd-looking sharp blade in his hand and thrust it at the violent sword behind him. I'll take you down with me. Qian Kai's voice was abnormally resentful. Qin Feng felt a cold threat from the gray short sword in Qian Kai's hand. There was something strange about this short sword. Qin Feng unleashed the cool breeze god refining step. His body moved like a nimble snake as he avoided the trajectory of the short sword. His eyes fell on the restriction-breaking pearl, and a cold light flashed past. Poochie! Accompanied by a painful scream, a finger stained with blood was thrown up high along with a jade-green pearl. Qin Feng's eyes flickered as his body moved like a dragon and caught the jade-green pearl in his hand. Restriction-breaking pearl, good stuff. It's mine now. Qin Feng casually kept the pearl and looked at the ashen-faced gray-robed man who was clutching his bleeding finger. Qin Feng. Clenching his teeth, Qian Kai's tone was filled with so much resentment that even the 9 heavens and 10 earths wouldn't be able to wash it away. Qin Feng said, "Qian Kai, if I didn't remember wrongly, you are Lu Kanyang's abandoned lackey. Later on, you seem to have been picked up by Xiao Yuchan and then abandoned. I didn't expect you to be like an undying cockroach and actually reach this step. The most surprising thing is that you actually dared to steal All Stars College's Fei. You are truly audacious. However, you should never have stolen from me. You are like lighting a lantern in the toilet. You are courting death." Qian Kai was so angry that he was trembling. He was even more shocked that Qin Feng wasn't numbed by the fragrance of time. Furthermore, he had been pretending and waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Qian Kai's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Qian Kai was very glad. If he didn't listen to the revered elder's words and directly went to kill Qin Feng, he might have been sliced open by Qin Feng's sword. Damn Qin Feng, so sinister. Cursing in his heart, Qian Kai's eyes flickered as he wanted to charge out of the jade water cave. However, Qin Feng blocked his path. Qian Kai was a little anxious. "Revered elder, what should we do now?" "Don't worry, I have a way to help you escape. A mere Qin Feng can't stop you. You are fighting with him now. This is a good opportunity to hone yourself. This Qin Feng is a very good whetstone. If you can defeat him, your cultivation will soar by leaps and bounds." Today's update is still 5. This is the first update. The second update is at 1 o'clock. Brothers, please recommend me. Please bookmark me. Chapter 191. It's actually Qian Kai's doing. Qin Feng held the dark north godly water sword in his hand, feeling surprised in his heart. When the gray-robed man entered the jade water cave, Qin Feng had already sensed him through the fluctuation of the water vapor. Qin Feng recognized the fragrance of time in the wind. Qin Feng was very familiar with this kind of strange fragrance. As an elite in the world of robbing, Qin Feng often used this kind of strange fragrance that could numb a martial artist's perception to kill and rob in his previous life. Qin Feng had even improved the recipe of the fragrance of time, upgrading it to a more complete soul-enchanting fragrance. Of course, Qin Feng was also very clear about the flaw of this strange fragrance. As long as the wind was blocked, the fragrance would not corrode. However, Qin Feng did not expect the gray-robed man to be Qian Kai. Seems like there's something strange about this Qian Kai. Most likely, there's a 1,000-year-old ghost behind this. Otherwise, his body wouldn't have changed so much in such a short time. Thinking in his heart, Qin Feng sneered. "However, since you dare to enter the jade water cave today, don't think of leaving." Qin Feng waved his hand, and a ray of light shot out. At the same time, Qian Kai's face changed greatly. The 6th grade array, Mystic Origin 2 Phases Spiritual Refining Array, was activated. An invisible aura surged, and the entire environment seemed to have changed, turning into a dense forest with iron trees towering into the sky. Qian Kai gritted his teeth. "Array!" In his mind, an old voice reminded him. "Don't worry, with this senior here, there's no need to be afraid. However, this is a 6th grade array with 2 attributes of water and wood. You have to be careful, these iron trees are formed from the array's innate wood chi." Qian Kai's eyes were a little flustered. At this time, he did not have any restriction-breaking beads. However, recalling revered elder's words, Qian Kai calmed down and calmed down. Green wood xiao xiao. Qin Feng's figure appeared in the middle of the array. Raising a hand, Qin Feng pointed a finger. Innate wood chi condensed in the air, turning into a thick iron tree and bombarding Qian Kai. Bang! Qian Kai's figure flashed and appeared 10 steps away. Qian Kai's face turned ugly. His gaze was searching for a flaw in the formation, intending to break out of it. Very good. A hint of mockery appeared in Qin Feng's eyes as he manipulated the innate Imu Qi in the array formation with his powerful spiritual sense. Rumble! Countless streams of innate I-wood energy gathered in the formation, forming dozens of thick, green ancient trees in midair. Go! Qin Feng lightly shouted. Bang bang bang! Dozens of thick ancient trees rolled down towards Qian Kai. Not good! Being locked onto by Qin Feng with his spiritual mind, Qian Kai cursed in his heart. Qian Kai moved agilely like a gray cloud, shuttling among the dozens of thick ancient trees that were falling down from the sky. Qin Feng could tell that this was an extremely brilliant footwork. It was at least at the advanced stage of the spiritual martial force. It might even be a genuine martial force movement technique. Qian Kai's figure scuttled left and right among the ancient trees like a slippery mouse. After a few breaths, the gray-robed figure of Qian Kai stepped out and landed 100 steps away. Whoosh! Qian Kai panted heavily with lingering fear. Qin Feng sneered with a strange look in his eyes. You do have a way. No wonder you are so fearless. Again, thousand-wood transformation. Qin Feng controlled the inexhaustible innate I-wood Qi in the formation and pointed out his finger. This time, hundreds of thick, green, ancient trees were generated from the formation. Rumble! The ancient trees rolled and collided with each other. Qian Kai was so scared that his face turned pale. Qian Kai roared in his heart. Respected elder, what should I do? I can't dodge it this time. The old voice said. Calm down. Pull out the Ghost Soul Sword and run your genuine Qi. Attack with the Ling of Gojoseon. Hearing this, Qian Kai's eyes lit up and a violent aura surged around him. In an instant, his aura increased by more than 3 times. Such a violent aura was even stronger than that of young King Jin from the Heaven Punishment Palace. Taking a deep breath, a strange gray short sword appeared in Qian Kai's hand. His body suddenly turned into a gray lightning and broke into the hundreds of ancient jade-green trees. Like a lightning bolt, he tore apart the ancient jade-green trees one by one, instantly opening a path. Qin Feng's eyes fell on the strange gray short sword. The gray short sword was so sharp that it could cut open the ancient trees formed by the innate Imu Qi of creation. This was a spiritual sword, and a middle-grade one at that. This is a good opportunity to kill Qin Feng. Qian Kai moved 100 steps and appeared dozens of steps away from Qin Feng. A trace of coldness flashed in Qian Kai's eyes. He became one with the sword and attacked Qin Feng. A terrifying light burst out and reached Qin Feng's head in the blink of an eye. Qin Feng's pores contracted violently and a strong sense of threat appeared in his heart. Qin Feng didn't panic. Instead, a cold smile appeared on his face. Qian Kai faintly felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know where it came from. He could only harden his heart and slash his sword towards Qin Feng. The pale gray sword radiance was extremely fast. It swept past the young man in the black robe and cut him into 2 easily. However, there was no blood. Qian Kai appeared 100 steps away with a gloomy face. It was an illusion. It was an illusion created by water vapor. Whoosh! At this moment, the dense forest in the array formation had unknowingly changed. It had turned into a blue sky with a blue sea and a surging tide. The Xianyuan 2 phases spiritual refining formation, the 2 phases of water and wood were changing freely. Oh no, be careful! An old voice in his mind reminded him anxiously. Without the reminder of the supreme spiritual ruins in his mind, Qian Kai felt a terrifying force coming from behind him. Water cannon bombardment! A cold voice sounded. Qin Feng stepped on the tide and his black robe fluttered in the wind. He was like the emperor of the ocean who controlled the boundless ocean. With a light point, hundreds of bucket-sized water radiances were aimed at Qian Kai. Qian Kai only felt darkness when he was bombarded by hundreds of bucket-sized water cannons. Bang! 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 Qian Kai tried his best to dodge but was still hit by a water cannon. Gotcha! Gotcha! Qian Kai's chest was in great pain. In an instant, his chest was hit by the water radiance and many of his ribs were broken. His body was thrown high up like a kite with a broken string. Qian Kai looked like he was crying and laughing at the same time. This time, he was going to die in the hands of Qin Feng again. Glancing at the young man in the grey robe who was thrown into the air, Qin Feng stomped his foot and roared, "It's not over yet." Countercurrent splash. Rumble. The ocean shook and there were a series of shocking roars. Hundreds of thick water radiances burst out from the surface of the ocean and shot up to the sky. That scene was unforgettable. Qin Feng couldn't help but be intoxicated by the control of the water flow. Although it wasn't his own strength at this moment, it was with the help of the formation. His innate superpower, ocean control, improved by leaps and bounds with the control of the water flow. Hundreds of thick water radiances spurted out from under Qian Kai's feet. Qian Kai was scared out of his wits. If he was hit, he would be smashed to pieces. Qian Kai shouted anxiously as he endured the pain of his broken bones. "I can't take it anymore, Supreme Elder. I can't beat him. Let's run." This is the second update. As usual, the third update is in the morning, the fourth update is in the afternoon, and the fifth update is in the afternoon. Chapter 192. Qian Kai's face was gloomy and filled with anger. His heart was filled with despair. He had lost to Qin Feng again. The old voice knew what Qian Kai was thinking and scolded him. "Brat, pull yourself together. You've only lost once. Which one of us didn't bleed countless times and suffer countless injuries? We grew up step by step." Qian Kai shouted anxiously. "Esteemed elder, don't say such useless things. Hurry up and think of a way to get me out of here." The old voice said helplessly. "All right, take out the stone talisman you got from the ruins. Crush it." Qian Kai quickly took out a strange stone talisman from his chest. Void boundary breaking talisman. Seeing Qian Kai take out the stone talisman, Qin Feng's face changed. Qin Feng recognized the origin of this stone talisman. It was a precious treasure that contained the power of space. Trying to run? Thinking of the stone talisman's function, Qin Feng's face turned cold. Endless innate Kuei water yuan qi surged out from the array. In an instant, the ocean under his feet surged and a fountain appeared in front of the black-robed young man. A strange light blue halberd emerged from the fountain. This halberd looked like the divine weapon of the ancient Sea Emperor. Kacha. At this moment, the stone talisman shattered and a black hole appeared in the middle of the Mystic Origin 2-link spiritual array. In an instant a crack appeared. An old voice bellowed, "Void Chaos, Royal Talisman." A blood-red light shot out from Qian Kai's hand and froze the spatial crack. Wrath of the Sea God. Qin Feng's eyes shoot out a divine light. He stomps his foot and a 10,000 zhang high wave rises behind him. He reaches out one hand and grabs the aquamarine halberd that is shining with a light blue brilliance in the spring water. His arm was like a full moon as he grabbed the halberd and threw it at Qian Kai. Rumble. The halberd shattered the void and locked onto the gray-robed young man. Qian Kai's scalp went numb and his mind felt like it was going to explode. A vision of death appeared in front of Qian Kai's eyes. Qian Kai saw himself being pierced by the terrifying halberd. Blood splattered across the sky as his body exploded. The old voice roared, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and leave." Qian Kai felt as if he had woken up from a dream. Like a sharp sword, he charged into the black hole that had been torn open. The black hole was about to close, and at this moment, the battle halberd Qin Feng hurled out arrived, violently breaking into the black hole. Rumble! An earth-shattering explosion occurred within the black hole. Faintly, Qin Feng heard an extremely miserable scream. At the same time, several hundred miles away, a hole suddenly opened in the void, and a humanoid creature fell out of it. With a loud thud, he smashed into the ground and groaned in pain. This person's clothes were ragged, and his skin and flesh were lacerated. There was a terrifying hole in his chest, and blood and flesh were dripping. It was extremely terrifying. If it was anyone else, they would have died. However, this person's life force was extremely tenacious, and he was still bitterly holding on. The silhouette struggled to get up. With one hand, he held the heart that was about to fall to the ground. With the other hand, he took out bottles after bottles of elixirs and poured them into his mouth with all his might. It was none other than Qian Kai. Qin Feng's Neptune's fury blasted into the spatial door, causing an earth-shattering explosion that nearly killed him. What was shocking was that the wounds on his body were slowly recovering. The aura of death was gradually being expelled. After a while, the figure collapsed on the ground. He felt weak and his organs hurt. Even if he had many elixirs, it would take him 7 to 8 months to recover from such injuries. What hurt Qian Kai the most was that most of the treasures he had on him had fallen into the spatial door. He had spent the past 2 months plundering the various ruins of the Spirit Void sect. This loss made Qian Kai vomit blood. Looking at a distant mountain, Qian Kai gritted his teeth. Qin Feng, I'm not done with you. Honorable Elder, are you all right? Qian Kai became nervous when he recalled the figure that was like a father to him. There was no way Qian Kai could have dodged Qin Feng's attack. If it wasn't for the Honorable Elder blocking most of the aftershock for Qian Kai with a secret technique, Qian Kai would have been killed in the spatial door. Little guy, I'm fine. The old voice sounded weak, as though it was heavily injured. I was heavily injured when I blocked that attack. I'll be in deep sleep for a while. The rest is up to you. With that, the old voice went completely silent. Honorable Elder, Honorable Elder. He still got away. In the Jade Water Cave, Qin Feng removed the mystic two-phase spirit refining array. His eyes were filled with pity. In fact, he hadn't even unleashed 1% of the mystic two-phase spirit refining array's power. Even if he had unleashed 1% of its power, Qian Kai would have died without a doubt. Forget it. Those 1,000-year-old ghosts and antiques aren't easy to deal with. He thought to himself. But this time, even if he doesn't die, he'll be heavily injured. At the very least, he won't be able to stir up trouble for a while. Qin Feng smiled and glanced at the undamaged jade water golden lotus. At this time, this spiritual root was emitting a pure spiritual light. The lotus leaves were tender and tender, dense spiritual energy, and divine clouds were rising. This place was like the cave of a god. There wasn't a trace of damage. Opening the cave door, Qin Feng looked at the sky. At this time, there were stars in the sky. Outside, the patrolling medicine boys seemed to be frozen in time. At this time, the sound of wings flapping could be heard. A strange bird descended from the sky and landed on Qin Feng's shoulder. Croak, croak. Brother Feng, where's the thief? Little 8, you weren't affected by the strange fragrance? Qin Feng looked at Lord 8 on his shoulder in surprise. Lord 8 cried out. Croak, croak. Brother Feng, you underestimate Lord 8 too much. How can a mere fragrance charm Lord 8? Lord 8 was born in the poison god Ridge. What kind of poison can't Lord 8 control? Even the king of 10,000 poisons is Lord 8's favorite dish. If I'm charmed by this fragrance, how can Lord 8 survive? Qin Feng curled his lips. Lord 8 was bragging to the heavens. Qin Feng swept his gaze and waved his sleeve. A formless water vapor surged and the dark clouds in the sky shook. A light rain fell on the scarlet sky peak. The rain washed away the strange fragrance. Why is it raining all of a sudden? Luan Xiaochuan's body suddenly trembled and her eyes lit up. Luan Xiaochuan was baffled as she looked at the rain falling around her. Yeah, why is it raining all of a sudden? Su Jie led a group of medicine boys patrolling with torches. The torches flickered. None of the medicine boys, including Luan Xiaochuan and Su Jie, noticed the abnormality just now. It was as if they had forgotten a period of time. Just when Qin Feng thought that the theft of the spiritual herbs had come to an end, however, to his surprise, another piece of bad news came from the foot of the mountain the next day. The Boundless Mountain's guardian spiritual item was also stolen. The Boundless Mountain was a blessed land 1,000 miles away from the Scarlet Sky Peak. The guardian spiritual item was a piece of eternal blue sky that nurtured the innate E-wood origin essence. When Qin Feng heard the news, he felt that it was impossible. It was impossible for Qian Kai to commit 2 crimes in one night. This is the 3rd update. Please recommend, please collect. The 4th update is at noon. Chapter 193. Qin Feng denied in his heart. Qian Kai would be bedridden for at least half a year after being hit by the wrath of the sea god. Moreover, he had already snatched the restriction-breaking bead and no longer had the ability to steal the elixirs. Could there be a second elixir thief? Qin Feng felt that it was inconceivable. Since when did the colossal All-Stars College become so infested with thieves? On Qin Feng's shoulder, Lord Ba also received the news. His eyes darted around sneakily as he muttered in his heart. Strange, I didn't make a move last night? Could it be that, other than me and the gray-robed man, there is a third person who stole the elixirs? Lord Ba's eyes darted around as he instinctively felt that something was amiss. As expected, not long after, Lord Ba's intuition was confirmed. The continuous theft of the elixirs had finally aroused the wrath of this colossal being. In the afternoon, Qin Feng, who was cultivating on the Scarlet Sky Peak, suddenly felt an earth-shattering and terrifying aura descending. When this aura descended, the birds and beasts on the Scarlet Sky Peak, regardless of their strength, immediately lay on the ground and didn't dare to move. A martial overlord had descended. Qin Feng stood up in shock. This aura didn't dissipate for a long time and only left after 2 hours. At this moment, whether it was the birds and beasts on the mountain or Qin Feng, they were all sweating profusely. This feeling was too terrifying, as though a divine mountain was pressing down on their heads. The entire area occupied by All Stars College was frozen by this aura. Half a day later, news came from outside the mountain. There was news about the thieves who stole the elixirs. Luan Xiaochuan hurriedly ran up from the foot of the mountain with an excited expression. Cave Master, an almighty expert, used an exceptional divine ability just now. This matter has been investigated clearly. It is said that there were 3 thieves who stole the elixirs this time. 3 elixir thieves. Qin Feng's expression slightly changed. This was really unexpected. Qin Feng was even more surprised. Qian Kai relied on the fragrance of time and the restriction-breaking bead to steal the elixirs. What abilities did the other 2 elixir thieves have? They were actually able to ignore the restrictions of the various caves and peaks and enter as they pleased. Gua, as expected. Lord Ba's eyes darted around. Tilting his head, Qin Feng stared at Luan Xiaochuan and asked, "Did you catch the 3 thieves who stole the elixirs?" Luan Xiaochuan shook his head. That's not the case. According to the people from the Medicine King Hall, these 3 thieves who stole the spirit herbs each have their own unique abilities and are extremely cautious in their actions. Right now, the Medicine King Hall's people are stepping up the interrogation. I believe that there will be results very soon. Very good. You may leave. Continue to investigate the Medicine King Hall. Once you have any news, report back to me immediately. Yes, Cave Master. Luan Xiaochuan jogged down. Beside the Heavenly Lake, Qin Feng didn't pay too much attention to this matter. As long as this spirit herb thief didn't steal from him like Qian Kai, Qin Feng was prepared to ignore it. Qin Feng placed all his attention on the cultivation of Little Art of Clouds and Rain. After Little Art of Cloud and Rain broke through to the 9th level, the difficulty of cultivating it had increased by another level. According to Qin Feng's original estimation, even if he had the help of the Northern Underworld Godly Water Sword, He would need at least 20 days to reach the 10th level. But now, Qin Feng had found a shortcut. This shortcut was discovered by Qin Feng by chance when he was dealing with Qian Kai. In the Jade Water Cavern abode, Qin Feng reactivated the Level 6 Mystic 2 Phases Spirit Refining Formation and once again created an ocean world. According to this formation, Qin Feng circulated the little art of clouds and rain and blasted out a seal of clouds and rain, controlling the ocean and transforming it into rain. Rumble. Standing on the ocean, standing on the waves, Qin Feng was like a tyrant who controlled the ancient ocean, stirring up winds and waves and turning the clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. Rumble. Sitting cross-legged on the ocean, he felt the trembling of the remaining seawater, the surging of the tides in the distance and the hazy clouds and rain above his head. Wisps of the ocean concept surged into his heart. It was supplemented by Qin Feng's understanding of the water element from his previous life. Qin Feng discovered that cultivating little art of clouds and rain here was 3 to 4 times faster than outside. Within the Mystic 2 Phases Spirit Refining Formation, it was a natural treasure ground for cultivating water element technique. Of course, the most important thing was still the spirit spring that acted as the eye of the formation. Using the formation to simulate the ocean had unimaginable benefits for Qin Feng to comprehend the ocean profound. It's really all thanks to that fellow Qian Kai. If it wasn't for him, I might not have been able to discover that this profound origin 2-phase spirit refining formation had such a benefit. Qin Feng pondered in his heart as he fully immersed himself in cultivation. In Qin Feng's mind, the complete ocean profound was composed of the cloud and rain profound, drizzle profound, violent rain profound, tidal profound, whirlpool profound, dark north profound, soft water profound and other branches of the profound. To completely comprehend the ocean profound, he had to comprehend at least 3 main profound. Qin Feng chose 3 profound meanings for himself: cloud and rain profound meaning, tide profound meaning, and dark north profound meaning. Among them, the cloud and rain profound advanced the fastest. If the cloud and rain profound was divided into 10 levels, Qin Feng had at least comprehended 7 levels. As for the tidal profound, it could also be called the tidal sword essence. This sword essence was Qin Feng's main direction of cultivation. However, Qin Feng estimated that he had at most comprehended 5 levels of this profound. As for the dark north profound, it was still an unknown domain. If Qin Feng could one day cultivate all 3 profound to perfection and combine them into the ocean profound, then that day would be the day he broke through to the meridian's condensation stage. Furthermore, the heaven and earth seed that he cultivated could become a sea seed. If he could become a demon god, then he could be called a sea emperor, a sea god. Inside the ocean formed by the formation, Qin Feng sensed the rhythm of the ocean's undulations and comprehended the strands of profoundness that flashed by in an instant. What was the path of clouds and rain? What was the profound of clouds and rain? In the undulations of the ocean, it seemed to appear directly in Qin Feng's mind as he rose and fell with the ocean. 3 days later, Qin Feng's little art of clouds and rain broke through to the 10th level and formed the 10th seal of clouds and rain. 6 days later, Qin Feng reached the 11th level of little art of clouds and rain and formed the 11th seal of clouds and rain. 10 days later, Qin Feng reached the 12th level of little art of clouds and rain and formed the 12th seal of clouds and rain. At this point, Qin Feng had comprehended the first profound, the profound of clouds and rain, to perfection. After merging the 12 seals of clouds and rain, a black seal of clouds and rain appeared on Qin Feng's palm. As the 12th level of little art of clouds and rain reached perfection, this seal of clouds and rain turned into a black water droplet in front of Qin Feng's strange gaze. It directly merged into the innate seal of the innate divine ability, ocean. At the same time, Qin Feng discovered that his innate divine ability, ocean control, had silently advanced by a level, becoming a level 3 divine ability. The innate divine ability possessed a new ability: cloud summoning rain. In the level 6 mystic origin 2 phases spirit refining formation, above the ocean, Qin Feng's sleeves fluttered as he pointed towards the sky. Immediately, endless water vapor turned into rolling black clouds. Then, within 120 feet radius, heavy rain poured down. The rain fell like beads threaded through a string. Qin Feng casually clenched his fist, and a droplet of water landed on his palm. This was a black raindrop. This was no ordinary raindrop. It carried traces of spirit energy. This was spirit water dew. In the next moment, Qin Feng's mind moved and the black clouds in the sky dispersed. The sky cleared after the rain. At the same time, Qin Feng's gaze landed on his palm. A black water ball appeared on his palm. The black water ball was as thick as a bowl and it spun. Following Qin Feng's thought, the water ball instantly split into 36 water droplets that spun on his palm. First heavenly primordial water. Qin Feng's face revealed a trace of a smile. The first heavenly primordial water not only had the miraculous effect of creating spirit items, it was also a water element treasure with great destructive power. Legend has it that the first heavenly primordial water was one of the 9 great primordial waters. One drop of the first heavenly primordial water had the weight of an ocean. Although the weight of the first heavenly primordial water was not as terrifying as the first heavenly water, it could not be ignored. And Qin Feng could condense 36 droplets of this first heavenly primordial water at once. Just as Qin Feng was cultivating the little art of cloud and rain behind closed doors, Qin Feng did not know that on this night, a beautiful and dreamlike creature appeared in his spiritual garden. This creature's gaze was fixed on a stalk of spirit medicine in the spiritual garden. The next day, Luan Xiaochuan anxiously knocked on the door of the Jade Water Cave. Waiting for Luan Xiaochuan, whose head was almost down to his pants, Qin Feng was furious. What? You said a stalk of spirit medicine was lost in the spiritual garden? This is the 4th update. The 5th update is around 6 in the evening. Please recommend, please add. Chapter 194. Qin Feng's face was green with anger. There were 7 spirit herbs in the Ling Garden. If any one of them was missing, he would be in big trouble. Not only would his points be deducted, more importantly, his merit points would be deducted. Qin Feng currently had 0 merit points. If his merit points were deducted, he would not be able to keep his status as a 5th-class inner sect disciple of the Medicine King Hall. He would be demoted to a 4th-class outer sect disciple. Where did Zhao Yuan go? What is he doing? Qin Feng stared at Luan Xiaochuan with a gloomy face. Luan Xiaochuan smiled bitterly. Zhao Shidi is waiting outside. Qin Feng shouted angrily. Let him in. Qin Feng was originally in a good mood after learning little art of cloud and rain, but now there was an unknown fire burning in his heart. Hurriedly entering the dwelling, Zhao Yuan saw the fierce black-robed cave master. His face was pale and he knelt on the ground. Cave master, I have failed in my duty. Please punish me. Resisting the urge to send Zhao Yuan flying with a kick, Qin Feng took a deep breath and calmed the anger in his heart. What the hell is going on? Which spirit herb was lost? It's that 500-year red dragon yellow essence. Zhao Yuan's face showed fear. He was the most responsible for the sudden loss of this spirit herb. Red dragon yellow essence. The 500-year red dragon yellow essence was a precious spirit herb that replenished qi and nourished yin. If a martial artist used too much essence blood, they only needed to cut a small piece to replenish it. His face was dark. Qin Feng quickly walked out of Jade Water Cave and came to the edge of the Ling Garden. At this time, there were only 6 spirit herbs left in the garden. The one with black leaves that could move freely in the ground like an old man was the 1,000-year black ginseng. The one with a stem like a white jade flying dragon, with a pale yellow stamen and emitting a strong golden yang aura, was the jade dragon origin sunflower. Not far away on a tree stump was a cloud-patterned forest love grass. Under another rock grew a yin-yang lotus. The one that breathed like a gallbladder was the dragon gallgrass. There was also the two-headed Chinese knotweed. Only the red dragon Solomon's essence, whose leaves were green and tender, was nowhere to be seen. Qin Feng stared intently at Zhao Yuan. What the hell is going on? I don't know, but the medicine boy who was in charge of guarding the spiritual garden said that he only saw a small white shadow flash, and then the red dragon yellow essence mysteriously disappeared. Petite white shadow? Qin Feng's face was gloomy, his eyes flashing with cold light. Could it be that the spiritual beasts on Scarlet Sky Peak secretly ate the scarlet dragon yellow essence? As for the so-called spirit beasts, domesticated ones are called spirit beasts, while wild ones are called ferocious beasts. If it was docile, it could be tamed as a spirit beast. Those that did not obey discipline were vicious and cruel, and were ferocious beasts. There were numerous spirit beasts on the Scarlet Sky Peak. These spirit beasts had docile natures, which was why they were able to reside and cultivate in the Scarlet Sky Peak. Zhao Yuan lowered his head and said softly, "That shouldn't be the case. Our Scarlet Sky Peak doesn't have any spiritual beasts with white fur. The only spiritual beast with white feathers is the white-feathered crane. After I lost the spiritual herbs, I found a trace of blood near the spiritual garden. It seems to be the blood of an unknown spiritual beast." Blood? Qin Feng's eyes flickered, and his anger subsided as he thought inwardly. Could it be that the spiritual beast was injured, so it ran into my spiritual garden and secretly ate the scarlet dragon yellow essence? Qin Feng knew that the scarlet dragon yellow essence was a great medicine that nourished the blood essence. Furthermore, this scarlet dragon yellow essence was 500 years old. Where is the blood stain? Bring me to it. Cave Master, please follow me. Zhao Yuan knew that he had gotten himself into big trouble and was eager to show off. After dozens of steps, Qin Feng appeared in a cluster of dense medicinal herbs on the shore of the heavenly lake. It was a cluster of dense medicinal herbs with dark green leaves that resembled lotus leaves and purple rhizomes. The medicinal aura was dense, and the branches and leaves were dense. The cluster of medicinal herbs propped up a place that was large enough for some spiritual beasts to hide. This was a type of medicinal herb called the purple peony. When it bloomed, it looked like a purple leaf and carried a unique medicinal fragrance. On one of the purple peonies, Qin Feng found a drop of dark red blood stain. On the other purple peonies nearby, there were also sporadic blood stains. In Qin Feng's mind, the figure of an injured little beast dragging its injured leg and whimpering while holding the scarlet dragon yellow essence in its mouth appeared. Qin Feng stretched out a hand and lightly touched the blood stain. He put it to his nose and smelled it. Wisps of delicate fragrance wafted over. Smelling this fragrance, Qin Feng seemed to see a beautiful woman in white walking over. She had dark hair, an apricot face and peach cheeks. She had a soft and slender waist like a begonia drunk in the sun. Her eyes were like a pair of curved phoenix eyes, and the corners of her eyes were full of tenderness and charm. She really looked like a goddess from the ninth heaven descending to the Jade Lake. Qin Feng shook his head, and the charming scene in his mind disappeared. Qin Feng was all too familiar with this smell. Qin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's actually that kind of spirit beast. No wonder. Only that kind of existence could be like that bastard Qian Kai, disregarding the restrictions of the peaks and caves as if they were nothing and stealing spirit herbs without restraint. Thinking in his heart, Qin Feng thought to himself, after all, that kind of existence is known as a true divine seed that seizes the creation of heaven and earth. The bloodline in this blood stain is pure. Clearly, it's a purebred. Qin Feng snickered in his heart. But from the looks of it, it should still be a child. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been injured and run to this cave master's herb garden to steal spirit herbs. Now that he knew what was stealing spirit herbs, Qin Feng's expression calmed down instead. Waving his hand, he no longer scolded Zhao Yuan. Zhao Yuan was as if he had been pardoned. Qin Feng's eyes swiveled, thinking about how to lure the thief out and capture him. Very quickly, Qin Feng shook his head. The most important thing now was how to make up for the loss of spirit herbs. Otherwise, not only would he lose the rank 5 intersect disciple, this Jade Water Cave abode would also change owners again. Right at this time, Su Jie hurried over. Cave Master, the Medicine King Hall's patrol is here. Medicine King Hall's patrol? Why are they here? Qin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of cold light. Who leaked the news? The Medicine King Hall's patrol was an organization that specialized in patrolling each mountain and cave. They were mainly responsible for monitoring the growth of spirit herbs in each mountain. Scarlet Sky Peak had just lost spirit herbs, and the Medicine King Hall's patrol had already received the news. Clearly, Scarlet Sky Peak still had some spies from other factions. Qin Feng sneered coldly. After a few hundred steps, Qin Feng saw that patrol. This was a young man dressed in golden robes. He had a graceful bearing and his eyes were cold. Beside him, there were 2 patrol guards with indifferent expressions. He turned and saw Qin Feng's arrival. Traces of a cold smile could be seen in his eyes as he stared at Qin Feng. He's here with ill intentions, Qin Feng thought to himself. With a smile on his face, he walked towards the green-robed young man. At the side, Su Jie was full of smiles as he spoke to Qin Feng. Cave Master, this is the Medicine King Hall's rank 5 patrol, Lord Wei Qinghuang. Lord Wei is the favorite of Elder Su Mu, one of the 4 great elders of our Medicine King Hall. Lord Wei, this is our Jade Water Cave's Cave Master, Chief Qin Feng. Qin Feng nodded with a smile on his face. So it's the upper hall's patrol. This way please. Wei Qinghuang sized up Qin Feng from head to toe and suddenly sneered. Alright, Cave Master Qin, don't try to curry favor with us. The spirit herbs in your Scarlet Sky Peak have been lost. This is a grave sin. You better make a trip to the Medicine King Hall with us. Wei Qinghuang stared coldly at the black-robed young man. He thought to himself, this is the Azure Dragon Institute's chief who injured senior brother Ao's brother. He's indeed young and aggressive. However, since you've become a disciple of the Medicine King Hall, you've entered my territory. In my territory, even if you're a dragon, you'd better coil up. If you're a tiger, you'd better crouch down. Qin Feng's eyes were instantly filled with anger. What curry favor? This guy with the surname Wei was too arrogant. The smile on Qin Feng's face instantly disappeared. His gaze landed on Wei Qinghuang like a sword as he spoke stiffly. Wei, as far as I know, the patrol only has the authority to investigate. They don't have the authority to arrest disciples of the Medicine King Hall, right? This is the 5th update. There's still one more at night. The old rules are still at 12:05. Please recommend me. Please bookmark me. Chapter 195. The authority of this patrol inspector was not small either. Although the patrol inspector did not control the resources of the mountain like the cave masters, he was directly responsible to the 4 elders of the Medicine King Hall. He could directly report to the 4 elders. According to Qin Feng, they were the eunuchs in front of the emperor, and the cave masters were the feudal vassals. Even though eunuchs were eunuchs and useless, they controlled a channel between the officials and the emperor. If this eunuch wanted to make the feudal vassals look bad, it would be a piece of cake. It was because of this that Qin Feng decided to treat him with respect. However, it did not mean that he was afraid. Obviously, Wei Qinghuang did not want to give face and Qin Feng directly retorted. Qin Feng's unyielding attitude caused Wei Qinghuang's expression to turn ugly. A mere ninth heavenly layer of the martial way, a cave master who had not even reached the meridian's condensing stage, dared to go against him. Did this Qin Feng really think that he had secured the cave master position? Wei Qinghuang's expression was cold as he stared intently. Qin Feng, I'm afraid that today's matter is not up to you. The loss of the spirit herbs at Scarlet Sky Peak is a huge mistake. If you, as the cave master, do not explain clearly to the Medicine King Hall, I'm afraid that today will be your last day as the cave master of Jade Water Cave. Qin Feng smiled coldly. This cave master losing the malfunctioning spirit herbs is my problem. It has nothing to do with you, Wei, right? If this cave master did not remember wrongly, you patrol inspectors only have the responsibility to record the growth of the spirit herbs. You do not have the right to punish this cave master. Wei Qinghuang's expression changed slightly as his face turned cold. Qin Feng was not wrong. The patrol inspector did not have the right to punish the cave master. However, this was not without precedent. The patrol inspector had a high position and was directly responsible to the four elders. Even if they took down a cave master on the spot, it would not be considered overstepping their authority. Not to mention this cave master of the ninth heavenly layer of the martial way. He was just an ant. Did he really think that he was the cave master? A trace of coldness flashed across Wei Qinghuang's eyes as he stared coldly at Qin Feng as if he was looking at a dead man. Qin Feng, no need to say anything more. Surrender and follow me to the Medicine King Hall. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. Looks like you're going to capture him by force? The patrol inspector is really impressive. Wei Qinghuang's eyes were cold as if he was looking at an ant. Cave Master Qin, this patrol envoy is giving you a chance. Otherwise, I'll crush you to death. Qin Feng's eyes turned cold. Complete silence. Seeing that Qin Feng had stopped talking, Lord Ba, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but speak up. Quack, Brother Feng, why aren't you talking? Insult him and beat him up. Oh, by the way, Brother Feng said that this expression is called, Daddy doesn't want to talk to you. Wei Qinghuang's expression changed instantly. He glanced viciously at Lord Ba, who was chattering on the rock. Lord Ba screamed. You're so fierce. Don't look at your father like that. Despicable. Too despicable. The corners of Qin Feng's mouth curled into a strange smile. Qin Feng swore that Qin Feng had never taught Lord Ba these words. Wei Qinghuang's eyes were cold. A fine and invisible cold light flashed and shrouded Lord Ba in an instant. Lord Ba screamed. Quack, quack. Kill the bird, kill the bird. Brother Feng, help. Qin Feng had already appeared in front of Lord Ba. With a slash of the North Nether Heavenly Water Sword, an unparalleled cold light flashed and slashed toward Wei Qinghuang. Wei Qinghuang's expression changed slightly. His body was like a phantom as he retreated a few hundred steps. Rumble! The sword light flashed and blasted into the heavenly lake, cutting a hole in it. What was incredible was that the hole couldn't be closed for a long time. The water on both sides of the lake flowed and automatically bypassed it. The third realm of sword principle, invisible way of heaven. Wei Qinghuang's eyes flashed with disdain. The lake water contained a trace of sword qi. As long as the sword qi didn't dissipate, the lake water couldn't be closed. Phew, you scared your father to death. How dare you assassinate your father? Brother Feng, beat this son of a bitch to death. Lord Ba angrily stood on the rock and rubbed his eyes with his fleshy wings. He was flustered and exasperated. Wei Qinghuang's face turned pale. He was so angry that he couldn't wait to chop this bitch bird to death. Qin Feng glanced at Lord Ba and snorted. Lord Ba quickly shut his mouth. Wei Qinghuang looked coldly at the black-robed youth. Today, no one can save you, Qin Feng said coldly. Dealing with a cave master so brazenly, are you not afraid that the Medicine King Hall will pursue this matter? Cave master, you think too highly of yourself. You're just an ant. I can kill you if I want to. As for the explanation to the Pill King Hall, you don't have to worry. I'm an expert in front of the 4 great elders. It's my duty to kill a traitor who wants to betray All Stars College. Wei Qinghuang was like a wild beast. The void yuan qi that he was spitting out had reached a terrifying level. The void yuan qi was twisting. Wei Qinghuang's face turned cold as he slammed his palm toward Qin Feng. Rumble! A palm suddenly enveloped Qin Feng. The speed of the palm was very slow, but Qin Feng had a feeling that he couldn't avoid it. This wasn't an illusion. Wei Qinghuang was too strong. This palm was enough to collapse the earth. Wei Qinghuang sneered. He was confident that this palm was enough to kill Qin Feng. Even if Qin Feng was the Azure Dragon Institute's first seat, even if Qin Feng had a high-grade spiritual sword that could kill enemies above his level. However, in the face of absolute strength, they were all trash. Wei Qinghuang wanted to kill Qin Feng with his first move. Enveloped by the terrifying palm wind, Qin Feng felt like he was being stared at by the Grim Reaper. All the pores on his body were trembling. The gap between them was too big. Qin Feng's eyes flashed. The innate primordial true qi in his body turned into innate primordial sword qi. He held the North Sea godly water sword. The innate primordial sword qi turned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In an instant, the sword qi around Qin Feng reached its peak. At this moment, Wei Qinghuang's eyes revealed a trace of shock. Qin Feng's aura was only slightly weaker than his. However, this wasn't the end. Qin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. The innate primordial sword qi in his body rushed to the unprecedented 6th revolution. The solid blue sword light circulated in his meridians. Qin Feng forcefully pushed it, and wave after wave of sword qi hit his meridians. The pain caused Qin Feng's face to contort. The sword qi broke through his meridians. Qin Feng was like a leaking teapot. Blood spurted out and dyed his clothes red. Qin Feng's eyes were cold as if there was no temperature. In an instant, the aura around him rose to an unprecedented height. The 6th sword of the innate primordial chaos annihilation sword. Clang! The sword chimed as if it had suddenly awakened from a long slumber. It let out a roar of joy. A ray of sword light flew out from the scabbard like a dragon. The mournful and stunning sword light covered the lakeside in an instant and rushed toward Wei Qinghuang. The sword qi was unstoppable, and the sword light was cold. The sword light tore apart Wei Qinghuang's palm force that could split mountains and rivers. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Wei Qinghuang. Wei Qinghuang's face changed drastically. This is the first update. The second update is at 8 in the morning. The third update is at around 11 in the morning. The fourth update is at noon, and the fifth update is in the afternoon. Seeking recommendation tickets, seeking collection. Chapter 196. How was this possible? How could Qin Feng release such a terrifying sword radiance? Wei Qinghuang's scalp was about to explode as he was enveloped by an unprecedented aura of death. Wei Qinghuang took a deep breath and retreated quickly. At the same time, he tried his best to activate his special ability. Thousand Wood Protection. An unparalleled jade-green halo exploded from Wei Qinghuang's body. Once the jade-green brilliance appeared, it immediately took away the vitality of the surrounding herbs. Countless vitality and essence were forcefully absorbed into the jade-green halo. The jade-green halo became thicker and more dazzling. In the next moment, the sharp sword radiance tore through the jade-green halo. The ferocious sword aura pierced through and the North Underworld Godly Water sword slashed towards Wei Qinghuang. Wei Qinghuang felt a chill in his heart as he retreated half a step. However, it was this step that allowed the North Underworld Godly Water sword to strike his crotch. Ah! A pitiful scream rang out. A bloody light exploded from Wei Qinghuang's crotch. Wei Qinghuang's pupils contracted as he stared at Qin Feng. He slowly opened his legs and knelt on the ground. The intense pain caused Wei Qinghuang's face to contort as his eyes rolled back. Holding the North Underworld Godly Water Sword, Qin Feng lifted his head and looked at where Wei Qinghuang was injured. His gaze froze. The corner of Qin Feng's mouth twitched. He really didn't aim at that area on purpose. Splat! Blood flowed down from Wei Qinghuang's crotch and flowed to the ground. It was extremely tragic. Wei Qinghuang lay on the ground, twitching all over. He stared at Qin Feng with resentment. His body twitched and his face turned green from the pain. Croak, croak, Brother Feng's balls exploded. Lord Ba's eyes widened as he covered his beak with his wings. He was shocked. Qin Feng was expressionless. When he moved his feet, he immediately felt intense pain all over his body. His face turned pale and his body swayed. He had just forcefully activated the sixth sword of the innate tidal extermination sword. The pressure on his meridians was too heavy and they were all severely injured. Qin Feng silently activated the little art of clouds and rain. Streaks of one heavenly primordial water appeared and nourished his injured meridians. Patrol Inspector. Seeing Wei Qinghuang holding his crotch and falling to the ground, the two disciples of the Medicine King Hall were shocked. His balls were crushed. After the two disciples checked their injuries, their faces turned pale. One of the Medicine King Hall disciples stood up and glared at Qin Feng as he shouted angrily. Qin Feng, you're despicable. How dare you lay your hands on the patrol inspector? The green-robed disciple looked at Wei Qinghuang's crotch in shock. Qin Feng's sword had completely destroyed Wei Qinghuang's life force. The one heavenly primordial water condensed the power of creation and life force, healing the hidden injuries in Qin Feng's body. His face gradually turned rosy. The innate primordial chaos unity qi automatically circulated and recovered his true qi. Hearing this, Qin Feng raised his head and sneered. You guys seem to have made a mistake. It was your patrol inspector who made the first move. He's asking for it. All of us can testify to this. That Pill King Hall disciple's face paled. This was something they could not deny. Of course, they knew how overbearing Wei Qinghuang was. Qin Feng, this is not over. Hatred flashed in his eyes. That Pill King Hall disciple knew that he could not get anything out of Qin Feng. He immediately rolled up his sleeves and helped Wei Qinghuang up. Let's go. In a flash, Qin Feng stood in front of the two of them. His face was cold. You guys can leave, but leave Wei behind. The leading green-robed disciple of the Medicine King Hall said hatefully. Qin Feng, don't go overboard. Qin Feng sneered. He glanced at the hundreds of withered precious herbs within a radius of a few hundred feet. These herbs had all their life force taken away by Wei Qinghuang's wood-based superpower. I've gone overboard. You patrol inspectors attacked me indiscriminately and even destroyed several hundred of my precious medicinal herbs. You're so overbearing. You've even twisted the truth and made false accusations. I've gone overboard? Am I as overboard as you? No matter what, Wei won't be leaving today. Qin Feng's attitude was unyielding. How could Qin Feng let Wei Qinghuang off so easily after forming a blood feud with him? The green-robed disciple was filled with hatred. What do you want? Qin Feng sneered. Of course, I want you to compensate for your losses. 5 times the amount for every herb. Don't even think about leaving Scarlet Peak safely if you lose a single point. You think you can run away after being defeated so arrogantly? Patrol inspectors might have to be cautious in the eyes of others, but they were nothing in Qin Feng's eyes. If he didn't ruthlessly stomp on someone who was riding on his head, he wouldn't be Qin Feng. The green-robed disciple gritted his teeth. That's impossible. Qin Feng sneered. It's only right to repay what you owe. You destroyed so many precious herbs in my Scarlet Peak. If you guys don't give me an explanation, Wei Qinghuang won't be leaving today. If you can't make the decision, then find someone who can. The green-robed disciple gritted his teeth and sneered at the black-robed youth. All right, I'll find someone who can keep his word. I only hope that you won't regret it. The green-robed disciple glanced at the other Medicine King Hall disciple and whispered a few words. He then looked at Qin Feng with killing intent and walked out of Scarlet Peak. Cave Master, are you really going to let him go? Su Jie had already woken up from the sudden turn of events and was sweating profusely. Su Jie was sweating profusely. He felt that his cave master wasn't an ordinary troublemaker. First, he crippled one of the Heaven Punishment Hall's 6 punishment masters, Jin Xiaowang. This time, he was even more ruthless. He actually castrated the Medicine King Hall's patrol inspector. Looking at Wei Qinghuang's bloodied crotch, Su Jie felt that Qin Feng had simply poked a hole in the sky. Castrating the Medicine King Hall's patrol inspector with a single sword strike would definitely incur the wrath of the 4 elders. What are you afraid of? Calm down. Looking at the pale Su Jie, Qin Feng remained calm. Calm down. How am I supposed to calm down? You castrated the Medicine King Hall's patrol inspector. How am I supposed to calm down? Su Jie's face was as white as a sheet. To be associated with such a troublemaker cave master, he was really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. If I had known, I wouldn't have boarded his pirate ship even if you beat me to death. Su Jie complained incessantly in his heart. Qin Feng was calm. Since he had already severely injured Wei Qinghuang, Qin Feng wouldn't regret it. If he could choose again, Qin Feng's answer would still be the same. He definitely wouldn't let Wei Qinghuang ride on his head. Currently, the most important thing is to deal with the 4 elders. Qin Feng's gaze swept across and suddenly recalled a spiritual item. It was the yin-yang lightning spiritual wood that he had brought out from the ruins of the Spirit Mound sect. Qin Feng's gaze landed on Wei Qinghuang. The other Medicine King Hall disciple looked at Qin Feng cautiously. However, it was useless. Qin Feng's body flashed and with a karate chop, he knocked out the Medicine King Hall disciple who was at the 9th firmament of the martial way. Cave Master. Seeing that Qin Feng had knocked out the Medicine King Hall disciple, Su Jie almost fainted. What was this Cave Master up to again? Cave Master, you don't want it. Su Jie's face was pale as he had a bad feeling in his mind. Don't worry, I won't kill him. He is now my hostage. Qin Feng smiled coldly as a trace of eeriness flashed across his eyes. After half a day, Qin Feng buried the yin-yang lightning spiritual wood under Wei Qinghuang's body. Qin Feng made use of this time to set up a level 4 array. This level 4 array was called the Chaos Divine Thunder Array. This Chaos Divine Thunder Array was very powerful. The Chaos Divine Thunder that erupted was enough to kill a Sea of Reincarnation realm expert. Back then, Qin Feng had used this array to make Lu Kanyang feel like he was in heaven. Before leaving the ruins of the Spirit Ruins sect, Qin Feng took the opportunity to completely dismantle this array. This time, he set it up around Wei Qinghuang. If the 4 elders were to talk nicely, then it would be fine. But if they were to use force, then Qin Feng would give them a big surprise. Just as Qin Feng was setting up the array, a group of dozens of people appeared at the foot of the Scarlet Sky Peak. The leader of this group was a young man with an angry face. The aura around this young man was tumbling like a demon god. He was more than 10 times stronger than Wei Qinghuang, and his cultivation was close to the 5th secret realm of the Pulse Condensation realm. The young man looked at the Scarlet Sky Peak that reached into the clouds. His eyes were gloomy and his icy, killing intent almost solidified. This is the Scarlet Sky Peak? This brat Qin Feng has such big gut. He actually dared to touch my Su Mu's people. He deserves to die. Update 5. This is the second update. Originally, I said it was 8 a.m., but now I have updated it in advance. So many people are tipping me and urging me to update. Thank you all for your support. Finally, I hope you can recommend me. The third update is at around 11 a.m. Chapter 197. A group of dozens of people charged into the Scarlet Sky Peak. Elder Su. With smiles on their faces, Luan Xiaochuan and the rest greeted them on the stairs. The leading green-robed man sneered and waved his sleeve, sending the group flying back. Bang bang bang! One after the other. Luan Xiaochuan and the rest rolled several feet and fell to the ground. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and they couldn't get up for a while. Standing beside Wei Qinghuang, Qin Feng's eyes were cold as he coldly looked at the group of uninvited guests. How impressive! The leader was a tall young man. He was dressed in a green robe and walked with a majestic gait. His long hair draped over his shoulders. He was handsome and dignified. There was a terrifying aura on his body. He was a meridians condensing realm expert. Jin Xiaowang and Wei Qinghuang were like babies compared to him. The tall young man was followed by dozens of martial artists with oppressive auras. Each of them was brimming with killing intent and holding weapons. They were obviously veterans of hundreds of battles. These people swept their gazes around with ferocious glints in their eyes. Where is that little bastard Qin Feng? Get out here. He dared to injure Senior Brother Wei and the patrol inspector. This is unforgivable. From the way the surrounding people addressed the tall young man, Qin Feng knew that he was one of the 4 great elders of the Medicine King Hall, Su Mu. He was also Wei Qinghuang's backer. At first glance, Su Mu saw Wei Qinghuang, who was lying on the ground and twitching from time to time. His figure flashed and landed beside Wei Qinghuang. His eyes swept over and finally fell on Wei Qinghuang's lower body. The pool of redness in his eyes was shocking. With just a glance, Su Mu knew. Wei Qinghuang was wasted. This confidant that he had spent so much effort to cultivate was actually destroyed by a brat who appeared out of nowhere. Su Mu's gaze instantly landed on a black-robed youth beside the heavenly lake. Su Mu reprimanded in a gloomy voice. Qin Feng, how dare you disregard the rules of All Stars College, injure fellow disciples, and injure the patrol inspector of the Medicine King Hall? How dare you disregard the rules of All Stars College? Injure fellow disciples? This was a great taboo in the sect. This accusation was made. He wanted to consign Qin Feng to eternal damnation. Behind Su Mu, the venerables stared coldly at the black-robed young man. They did not hide the ferocity in their eyes. As expected, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Sneering coldly in his heart, Qin Feng turned around and faced the pressure of the crowd alone. I'm afraid Elder Su's judgment is unfair. First, Elder Su didn't ask for the reason, and second, you didn't verify the facts. The moment you came up, you blindly sided with your subordinate. I'm afraid others won't accept this. Before Su Mu opened his mouth, the group of people behind him had already started to berate him. Little bastard, you injured Senior Marshal Brother Wei and our patrol inspector. How dare you talk about fairness with us? This is the biggest joke in the world. Little bastard, if you're sensible, then immediately bind yourself and kneel down to beg for mercy. Otherwise, you'll surely die a graveless death today. Not only did he injure our patrol inspector, he even dared to talk back to Elder Su. There's no need to waste your breath on such a disrespectful rascal. Immediately take down this brat who doesn't know the rules and broke the sect's rules. Su Mu was expressionless. You injured my people. If I don't punish you properly today, how can I convince others in the future? As for fairness? A mere cave master dared to talk about fairness with the 4 great elders of the Medicine King Hall. Simply childish and laughable. A trace of indifference flashed across Su Mu's eyes as he sneered. I don't need you to question the way I do things. Men, take down this lunatic and bring him back to the Medicine King Hall. Su Mu shouted. How dare you injure a fellow disciple? Your crime is unpardonable. If this lad dares to resist, kill him on the spot. Yes, elder. Two figures stepped out from behind Su Mu. They were two young men with ferocious faces, and a terrifying aura lingered around them. One of them was dressed in a green robe, and carried a long saber on his back. There was a long and narrow scar on his face, like an ugly centipede. There was a terrifying cold aura around him. The other one was dressed in a white robe and held a long sword in his hand. He looked like a young master, but the corners of his eyes were cold, like a venomous snake that had been hibernating for a long time. The aura around the two of them wasn't any weaker than Wei Qinghuang's. At first glance, one could tell that these two were former students of All Stars College. The two of them took out their sabers and swords and waved them slightly. A fierce, murderous aura came from them. This was an aura that could only be felt after killing countless living beings. These two people were murderers who had killed countless people. At this time, Qin Feng had just broken through to the middle stage of the 10th heaven of martial path. He could deal with one of them, but he would die if he had to deal with two of them. Qin Feng glanced at Su Mu and sneered. The reason why Qin Feng was so long-winded with Su Mu was mainly to occupy the moral high ground. Otherwise, if he killed all of these people here regardless of the consequences, there would be great trouble. Now it was all good. Even if the experts of All Stars College investigated, Qin Feng was forced to fight back. He was a victim. Su Mu could roughly guess Qin Feng's thoughts. Su Mu didn't care. Who would care if a dead person was a victim? As long as he could kill Qin Feng with Su Mu's power, this matter could be completely resolved. In Su Mu's view, Qin Feng's life was already in his hands. He could kill him with a flip of his hand. The two figures looked at each other and shouted at the same time. Kill! Two figures moved like ferocious beasts, transforming into two bolts of lightning as they shot towards Qin Feng. A fierce aura shrouded Qin Feng. The faint radiance of the saber and sword turned into two ribbons, locking onto Qin Feng's vital points. One hit, one kill. Their figures were like a gust of wind. Their eyes were filled with traces of malevolence and viciousness. The two of them were confident that Qin Feng would die without a doubt. Qin Feng's body was suffused with cold air. Qin Feng had an illusion that he would be cut into several pieces by the saber and sword in the next moment. Damn it, they want to kill just because of a disagreement. These people are really audacious and unscrupulous. Fortunately, I was prepared. Otherwise, I would have suffered a great loss. Cursing in his heart and tensing up his mind, Qin Feng's face turned solemn. He crossed his fingers and quickly formed a seal. In an instant, the wind and clouds gathered by the heavenly lake. Endless thunderclouds gathered within a radius of 100 feet around Wei Qinghuang. In a few breaths, a set of formation activation incantation exploded from his hand. Rumble! The chaotic divine thunder formation buried under his feet was activated instantly. As everyone's expression changed, it included all the experts of the Medicine King Hall, including Su Mu. Rumble! As the thunder rumbled, the unconscious Wei Qinghuang opened his eyes. Standing on the formation eye of the chaotic divine thunder, Qin Feng looked at Wei Qinghuang coldly. With a stomp, Wei Qinghuang fainted again. Countless seals flew from his hands. In an instant, two light gray chaotic divine thunder struck from the dark clouds. Facing the saber and sword that were about to hit him, Qin Feng's eyes shone with a fierce light. He controlled the two thunderbolts to lock onto the two figures. Blast them to death! What's going on? The two people who were charging towards Qin Feng paused for a moment. When they raised their heads to take a look, their expressions changed drastically. Two terrifying light gray thunderbolts shrouded them and were less than 100 steps away from their heads. The two of them felt a chill of death from the depths of their souls. They sucked in a breath of cold air, but it was too late to dodge. A trace of fear flashed in their eyes. They tried their best to activate the true power in their bodies and attached it to their swords to block in front of them. Rumble! In an instant, the light gray thunderbolts landed on the two of them. Without a sound, they turned into two pieces of charcoal on the ground, emitting black smoke and the smell of roasted meat. At this moment, the two of them looked like they were roasted. Chaotic divine thunder. Sumu sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, Sumu looked up and saw that Qin Feng's eyes were fixed on him. His expression changed drastically. This is the third update, the fourth update at noon. The house suddenly shook just now. It was an earthquake. Fortunately, the magnitude of the earthquake was not big. However, an earthquake also requires a recommendation ticket. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.